Chapter 1139. Ji Tianxing frowned when he heard what Yun Yao said. The blood river at the foot of the holy mountain is indeed a little strange. It is said that the blood river has existed since the heavenly devil palace was founded. It has flowed for millions of years without drying up. For some reason the demon race called the blood river the holy river. Based on what you said just now, I'm afraid that the blood river is not simple. There must be some shocking secret hidden in it. Yun Yao nodded and said with a serious expression, I think so too. Also, I carefully recalled those demonic sounds. They are all very ancient demon race language. I have been looking up information during this period trying to figure out the meaning of those demonic sounds. Unfortunately, I searched the entire Cloud Soul Palace's library and didn't find any clues. Hearing her words, Ji Tianxing came to a sudden realization and asked, Yao, when I entered the study just now, I saw you flipping through ancient books, engrossed in them. Could it be that you were looking for clues? Yun Yao nodded. Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and asked, Yao, there is a curse in the demon race's bloodline. It will erupt on the night of the full moon every month, causing the demon race to mutate and suffer all kinds of pain. Do you think that the changes in the blood river and the demonic sounds you heard have something to do with the bloodline curse? Yun Yao said with certainty, I suspected this possibility before, but after careful analysis, it should have nothing to do with the bloodline curse. After all, I had already removed the bloodline curse for the demon race. That's right, I remember that the demon king once brought me, in my demonized state, to the heavenly devil palace to pay respects to an ancient statue. That statue was a giant demon with a very strange appearance. It actually had 3 heads, 9 arms and legs, and a pair of black and white wings on its back. The ancient demon king was very respectful to that statue and even said some strange things at that time. There was also a strange sound coming from that statue, just like the demonic sounds I heard from the blood river. She paused for a moment before continuing in a solemn tone. Therefore, I suspect that the changes in the river of blood and that demonic sound are definitely related to the demon king's scheme. Demon emperor's plot? Ji Tianxing muttered with a frown. Over the past year, the devil emperor has been keeping a low profile. He has barely shown himself. Even when I broke into the demon race's sacred mountain and the saintess palace, I didn't see him. Could it be that he's brewing some huge conspiracy? But what was he trying to do? What secrets does the river of blood hide? Both of them fell into silence. They frowned as they pondered and analyzed, but they didn't have the slightest clue. At this moment, a black figure suddenly flew out of Ji Tianxing's spatial ring. Shua. It was the figure of a tall middle-aged man. He was nearly 2 meters tall and had a tall and straight figure. He wore a strange black robe. His body was not tall and sturdy, but he exuded an incomparably majestic aura that could shake the heavens and earth. It was a godlike aura that could make everything in the world tremble and worship him. His sudden appearance in the study caused the air in the study to freeze. It was filled with an indescribable aura of divine power. Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao were stunned. They raised their heads and looked at him at the same time. The wide and special black robe covered his body and face. The two of them couldn't see his appearance clearly. His body was between illusion and reality. It was very clear and real, but it didn't really exist. However, Ji Tianxing was no stranger to his aura. He immediately reacted and asked, Burial of Heaven? Is this your divine soul doppelganger? Have you recovered your strength? The black-robed figure nodded slightly and said in a low and majestic voice, Yes, I have recovered nearly 40% of my strength. My strength is even greater than before. Just now, when I heard you talking about the river of blood and moine, it reminded me of some ancient legends. That's why I couldn't help but reveal my divine soul doppelganger. Hearing him say this, Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao were stunned for a moment. Then they revealed expressions of pleasant surprise. Burial of Heaven, do you know the secret of the river of blood? What ancient legend? Do you know the changes in the river of blood and the origin of the moine? Burial of Heaven nodded slightly and said in a low and deep voice, Recently, my strength has been constantly recovering. The fragmented memories of the past have also gradually emerged. I don't know why, but there are many stories and legends from ancient times in my memory. Legend has it that in ancient times, the demon clan worshipped the ancestor demon god. They regarded him as their father and spiritual leader. The ancestor demon god ruled the demon clan and conquered the world. He was always successful. He enslaved all the clans in the world and almost ruled the entire continent. Therefore the demon clan worshipped the ancestor demon god crazily. Even after thousands of years, the demon clan still regards him as their eternal leader. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao listened attentively. After he finished speaking, Ji Tianqing asked doubtfully, "Burial of Heaven, I have also heard of this legend that you mentioned. But what does this have to do with the mystery of the River of Blood?" Burial of Heaven explained, the demon clan's sacred mountain and heavenly devil palace were both built by the ancestor demon god. It is the holy land of the demon clan. However, in my ancient memories, when the sacred mountain and heavenly devil palace were built, there was no river of blood. After the great war of the gods in ancient times, the ancestor demon god fought with the gods of various clans. In the end, he mysteriously disappeared without a trace. From then on, the river of blood seemed to have appeared under the sacred mountain. Therefore, I deduced that the changes in the river of blood and the moine that Yun Yao heard might be related to the ancestor demon god. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao immediately revealed a look of disbelief. They looked at each other in surprise. Burial of Heaven, do you mean that the moine in the river of blood was emitted by the ancestor demon god? The black shadow I saw in the river of blood and the mysterious statue worshipped by the demon emperor, could it be the ancestor demon god? Statue? Burial of Heaven was startled for a moment. He asked in a solemn tone, "That statue, is it tall and majestic in appearance, with 3 heads and 9 arms and a pair of black and white wings?" Yun Yao's eyes flashed with a bright light. She quickly nodded and said, "That's right. It's just as you said." Burial of Heaven nodded and said in a solemn tone, "Then it's right. The legendary ancestor demon god looked exactly like that." The ancestor demon god was also called the death god by the experts of various clans in ancient times. It was an ominous sign, a synonym for death and slaughter. No matter where it appeared, it would bring a terrible disaster to all the living beings in the world. In ancient myths and legends, the death god was the most powerful existence among the gods. It controlled the power of the 3 calamities and 9 disasters. It had the power to destroy the heavens, the earth, and the stars. Its 3 heads represented the 3 major calamities, the apocalyptic calamity, the great solar fire, and the black solar storm. Its 9 arms represented the 9 major calamities, war, plague, famine, massacre, lightning, tribulation, inner demons, chaos, and so on. Its black and white wings represented death and reincarnation. Chapter 1140. Even the gods are afraid of it? The ancestor devil god is actually so powerful? Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were both shocked and in disbelief. Burial of Heaven nodded slightly and said in a solemn and low voice, "If not for this, the demon race of the ancient times would not have been able to dominate the world and enslave all the races. The war of the gods and the disappearance of the gods were all related to the ancestor devil god. Previously, when Tianqing sneaked into the demon race's sacred mountain, we did not see the changes in the blood river nor did we hear the demonic sound. However, I secretly observed the sacred mountain and the blood river and found that the blood river was very strange. It complemented the sacred mountain and formed a strange pattern. That pattern was very evil and powerful, and it gave me a sense of déjà vu. At this point, Burial of Heaven paused and said in a solemn voice, "At that time, I had not recovered much of my memory and only felt puzzled. I did not know what was going on. Now that I think about it, the strange pattern formed by the blood river around the ice mountain seems to be the 9 deaths blood river great array created by the ancestor devil god. It has the heaven-defying effect of reincarnation and rebirth." Yun Yao showed a worried expression and asked doubtfully, "Burial of Heaven, do you mean the changes in the blood river, the demonic sound, and the mysterious shadow are all part of the demon emperor's scheme? Does the demon emperor want to revive the ancestor devil god?" Burial of Heaven nodded and said in a low voice, "That's right. That's the only possibility. Otherwise, the demon emperor would not hide in the sacred mountain and not show himself for an entire year." Ji Tianqing frowned and said worriedly, "If that's the case, then things are troublesome. The ancestor devil god is known as the death god and controls the power of the 3 calamities and 9 disasters. Once it is revived by the demon emperor, it will bring disaster to the entire continent. At that time, the entire Xianxia continent will be bathed in blood and all the races will be enslaved by the demon race again. After all, the death god is so powerful that even the gods fear him. In today's world, who can resist the death god?" Burial of Heaven was silent for a while before shaking his head and said, "What I said just now was only my guess. There are still many doubtful points that require careful consideration. The ancestral demon god was a divine being and should not exist in this world, much less appear on this continent. After the War of the Gods in ancient times, it disappeared along with the gods. No one knew if it had fallen or if it had left this continent. If the demon emperor wanted to revive it, it would mean that it had indeed died. But that's not right. After the death of a god, their body and soul would be destroyed and they would disappear forever. Otherwise, it would have been sealed in the Shenwu continent. How could it appear on the profound sky continent? Ji Tianxing and Yunyao were stunned when they heard that. They looked at the burial of heaven in confusion. Shenwu continent? What is that place? Why have we never heard of the Shenwu continent? Could there be other continents in this world? Burial of Heaven nodded slightly and explained in a serious tone, the vastness of this world is far beyond your imagination. In this world, of course, there was more than one Tianxian land. There were a few other continents. The Shenwu continent was the vastest, most mysterious and most ancient of the continents. It was only there that one could reach the legendary deity realm of the martial path, and one could even see a powerhouse in the martial god realm. It was a continent ruled by a martial god, and many of the fallen gods were buried in that continent. Some were buried in the long river of history, becoming legends for all eternity. Others lay dormant in the vast continent for a long time, searching for an opportunity in the world to be reborn. Ji Tianxing and Yunyao widened their eyes in shock. Neither of them dared to believe that this was true. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The profound sky continent is already vast and boundless enough. I never thought that there would be other continents in this world. Why have we never heard of this before? Even those primordial spirit supremes do not seem to know of the existence of other continents? Burial of Heaven spoke in a low and deep voice. Cultivating the martial path is actually a process for warriors to strengthen themselves and explore the mysteries of heaven, earth, and the starry sky. No matter what realm a warrior's strength reaches, they will find that their understanding of heaven, earth, and the starry sky is very shallow. With your current strength, it is impossible for you to leave this continent. Even those primordial spirit supremes are unable to do so, so of course you do not know of the existence of other continents. This is because the 5 continents in this world have been sealed by the gods, and they are isolated from each other and are not connected to each other. When he heard this, Ji Tianxing suddenly thought of something and many guesses appeared in his mind. He subconsciously asked, Burial of Heaven, 1,000 years ago, Kenshin reached the peak of the profound sky continent and created countless legends. However, in a few short decades he disappeared without a trace. Legend has it that he left this continent. Could he have gone to the Shenwu continent? Burial of Heaven nodded and said in a low voice, Of course. The Shenwu continent is the most vast and prosperous continent in the world. The martial path has been multiplied to the extreme and one can reach the deity realm. It is only on that continent that one has the possibility of becoming a god. It is not just Kenshin. Since ancient times, countless top powerhouses have tried to find ways to go to the Shenwu continent in order to reach the deity realm. When he heard this, Ji Tianxing subconsciously thought of the Eastern Mountain Sovereign. He finally understood that the Eastern Mountain Sovereign had definitely gone to the Shenwu continent. At this time Yunyao frowned and asked doubtfully, Burial of Heaven, didn't you just say that the 5 continents have been sealed by the gods and are not connected to each other? Then how did Kenshin go to the Shenwu continent? Also, since ancient times, how did the powerhouses of the martial path leave the profound sky continent? Burial of Heaven calmly explained, even the gods are not omnipotent. Although the continents have been sealed by the gods, after a long period of time, the seals on each continent have loosened, and some cracks and loopholes have appeared. Martial artists who are unwilling to be mediocre want to leave their continents and explore the wider world. They want to discover the mysteries of the universe and they will do so at all costs. Thus, countless powerhouses have paid the price of their lives to find some very hidden, but also very dangerous passages that can lead to the Shenwu continent. At this point he looked deeply at Ji Tianxing and Yunyao and warned them in a solemn tone, With your current strength, it is impossible for you two to find the passage. Even if you do find it, you two will not be able to pass through and will only lose your lives. Yunyao's eyes dimmed and she fell silent and did not say anything else. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and smiled bitterly. What passage? What Shenwu continent? They are too far away for us. That is a completely foreign continent and we will not even think of going there. Let's think about how we're going to deal with the demon emperor's scheme. Chapter 1141. Burial of Heaven could only confirm that the changes in the blood river, the mysterious demonic sound, and the statue worshipped by the demon emperor were all related to the ancestor demon god. However, no one knew what the demon emperor was plotting. If the ancestor demon god had fallen in the ancient times, how could it appear in the Xianxia continent now? If the demon emperor wanted to revive the ancestor demon god, what methods would he use? Everything was a mystery and unfathomable. However, one thing was for sure. If the ancestor demon god was really revived, the end of the Xianxia continent would come. This was an outcome no one wanted to see, but no one could stop it. Burial of Heaven returned to the broken sword, and the study became quiet. Tianxing and Yunyao looked at each other with a serious expression. After a while, Yunyao said to him, "Tianxing, we must take precautions and prepare for this as soon as possible. However, with our strength, we can't return to the demon race's sacred mountain to investigate the truth. Therefore, we should report this to the monarch residents and let them make the decision." Tianxing nodded and said, "Yes, not only the monarch residents but also the human race, demon race and water race imperial court should know about this and take precautions and prepare in advance. Leave this to me, I will tell them the news." Yunyao nodded slightly and said, "All right, then you must think of how to explain it to everyone so that they will believe and take it seriously. I came here as soon as I returned to the monarch residence. I have to go back to the cave to check on the situation." After that, she bid farewell and left the Sky Air Palace, heading towards the Cloud Jade Palace. Tianxing sat alone in the study and thought for a long time before he came up with an excuse. Then he took out 3 jade slips and entered information into the jade slips, recording that the demon emperor might revive the ancestor demon god. He sent the 3 encrypted jade slips to Long Yunxiao, Tai and Jiku. Long Yunxiao and Tai were both princes. After they received the news, they would definitely report it to the human race's monarch and the water race's golden dragon emperor. Jiku was the princess of the demon race. Once she received the news, she would definitely report it to the demon empress and demon emperor. After sending out the communication jade slip, Tianxing was about to leave Tianxing Palace to find divine teacher Black Feather. However, just as he reached the main entrance of Tianxing Palace, he saw 2 guards from the imperial residence arriving at the main entrance at the speed of light. Shua. 2 guards landed outside the gate and walked towards him respectfully. "Greetings, Prince Tianxing. Prince Tianheng, we're here on orders. Please come with us," said Yi Futian. The 2 guards looked solemn and their tone was also very solemn. Tianxing frowned slightly and asked, "Whose orders are you serving? Where are you taking me?" The 2 guards revealed a look of reverence and said in a low voice, "We are under the orders of the Imperial Palace." Imperial Palace. Tianxing's pupils shrank and his face was filled with disbelief. "The mansion master wants to see me?" He was filled with doubts, but he did not ask any more questions. He followed the 2 guards into the sky and rushed towards the depths of the imperial residence at lightning speed. The Imperial Palace was located in the deepest part of the imperial residence. It was a sacred and forbidden area in the imperial residence. That ancient and sacred palace was where the mansion masters of the past lived. Even the god teachers of the imperial residence could not get close to the imperial palace without the mansion master's summons. Tianxing had been to the imperial palace once, and it was there that he met the mansion master for the first time. Although he had only met the mansion master for a short time. But during that meeting, the mansion master told him about the sword god's followers. Thinking of this, he could not help but wonder if the mansion master had summoned him today to tell him another secret. An hour later, the 3 of them flew to the deepest part of the imperial residence and landed on a giant peak that was 10,000 meters tall. The ancient palace at the top of the giant peak was the imperial palace. 2 guards stood guard at the bottom of the steps outside the gate. Tianxing walked up the steps alone and walked towards the gate of the palace. The 30-meter-tall bronze gate was left ajar. He reached out with both hands to hold the bronze door knocker and pushed the gate open. The hazy light outside the palace shone through the gate into the spacious palace. Tianxing stepped through the gate with a serious expression and entered the palace. When he entered the main hall, the door behind him closed automatically with a bang. At the same time, hundreds of gemstone lamps lit up on the walls of the hall, emitting colorful brilliance. Ji Tianqing subconsciously raised his head and looked to the north. He saw the spacious, luxurious, and extremely honorable throne. To the left of the throne was a dark golden statue of a dragon man, and to the right of the throne was a statue of a harpy. On the spacious throne sat a burly middle-aged man in a purple robe. He was close to 2 meters tall, and his long snow-white hair was tied up with a dark golden dragon rope, revealing a carefree and unruly aura. He had a dark golden cloak draped over his shoulders, and his deep dark eyes shone with wisdom and vicissitudes of life. Ji Tianqing strode across the palace and came to the throne. He bowed to the white-haired man and said respectfully, "Greetings, mansion master." The white-haired man was the mansion master. He nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "You may rise." "Thank you, mansion master," Ji Tianqing replied. He straightened his body and looked at the mansion master calmly. "May I know why you summoned me here, mansion master?" The mansion master looked at him deeply and sized him up before saying in a deep voice, "I haven't seen you for a year, and you've already broken through to the soul refinement realm. Moreover, your strength has increased tenfold. I'm very pleased." Ji Tianqing nodded and explained, "In the past year, in order to rescue Yunyao, the emperor's son has been running around the mainland. During this period he has experienced many dangers and hardships. Difficulties make people work hard. The emperor's son also had some opportunities and adventures, which allowed him to break through smoothly and increase his strength rapidly." The mansion master nodded slightly and said in a gratified tone, "Very good. You're indeed the successor of Kenshin. You didn't disappoint me. Since you've already entered the demon emperor's lair and rescued Yunyao, what did you find and gain from your trip to the northern desert?" Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and answered truthfully, "Mansion master, the emperor's son did find something. Today I have 2 things to report to you. First, the emperor's son found Renhuang Yi in the Manga mountain range on his way back from the northern desert. According to the instructions you gave me, Renhuang Yi is one of the followers of Kenshin. Unfortunately, when I invited Renhuang Yi to come out and help me, he politely refused. He said that he was still waiting for someone." The mansion master's expression did not change. He said calmly, "It's normal for Renhuang Yi to refuse. You don't have to take it to heart. When the time is right, he will naturally come out and help you." Ji Tianqing nodded and continued, "Second, when the emperor's son and Yunyao were in the demon emperor's lair, they found some clues. After repeated consideration and speculation, we can confirm that the demon emperor is carrying out an earth-shattering conspiracy." Chapter 1142. The ancient demon emperor wants to revive the ancestor demon god? The palace master frowned and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. "What exactly happened? Tell me." Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed. Then he told the mansion master everything that had happened. Yunyao was transformed into the blood god by the demon emperor and imprisoned in the demon race's sacred mountain for 10 months. During that time, Yunyao would find the blood river at the foot of the sacred mountain churning on every full moon night. Mysterious demonic sounds could be heard from it, and mysterious black shadows flashed by. Not only that, but the demon emperor also brought Yunyao to visit a mysterious statue. The statue had 3 heads, 9 arms, and a pair of black and white wings. It was the image of the legendary ancestor demon god. Therefore, we dare to conclude that the demon emperor is most likely carrying out a plan to revive the ancestor demon god. After hearing his story, the palace master frowned and pondered for a while before nodding. "I see. It is indeed the same as my speculation. The sacred mountain and the blood river, the demon emperor's lair, hide too many secrets." Ji Tianqing stood quietly waiting for the palace master's decision. He thought that the palace master would take this matter seriously and make a corresponding decision. However, he did not expect the palace master to say calmly, "You don't have to worry about this for now. I summoned you here today to tell you something very important. Soon I will leave the middle state and will only be back in a year at the earliest. During this time I have a task for you." Hearing his words, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and asked with a face full of doubt and worry, "Master, the demon emperor is carrying out an earth-shattering scheme. Once his scheme succeeds and the ancestor demon god is awakened, it will bring an earth-shattering disaster to the Tianxian continent. At this critical juncture, shouldn't the imperial residents unite the powerhouses of the 3 races to stop the demon emperor's scheme? Don't tell me, you want to watch the demon race take over the world and enslave all the races?" Although his tone was agitated, the palace master was not angry. He listened to him expressionlessly and said in a serious tone, "Tianxing, you don't have to worry about this. The primogenitor devil god was an ancient god spirit. He had disappeared during the Great War of the Gods and his whereabouts were unknown. No one knows if the ancestor demon god left this continent or has completely fallen. It is only an illusory legend. Even if it is a god, it can preserve a remnant soul after its fall. But thousands of years has passed. How much power does it have left? The demon emperor wants to revive the ancestor demon god? The ancestor demon god's soul is god demon god's true body will take thousands of years." The potentate paused at this point. He stared at Ji Tianxing solemnly and asked, "A 1,000 years isn't enough time for all the races to work together and destroy the demon race? Furthermore, what this sovereign is about to do is related to the fate of the entire continent. It is of utmost importance." Ji Tianxing was immediately speechless. He was unable to persuade the palace master any further. He knew very well that the palace master was the greatest expert on the continent. His status and level were just too high, so he viewed things from a different perspective. Since the palace master told him not to worry and that he had something to do that would affect the fate of the continent, what reason did he have to stop him? After a moment of silence, he could only clasp his hands and bow. He said, "May I ask what mission the palace master has? Please tell me." The palace master stared at him with shining eyes and said gruffly, "You are the emperor that I value the most, as well as the successor of Kenshin. You have already reached the soul refinement realm, surpassing the limits of mortals. As a result, it's time for me to tell you some things and secrets. After Yunyao was saved by you, her body was still possessed by a demonic soul, and she was constantly demonized. It was Yunyao who begged me to save her, which was why Yunyao was freed. Yunyao has a Neptunian god pearl within her. That is the legendary goddess Yaoguang's remnant soul. It is a god artifact. The origin of this Neptunian god pearl is closely related to Kenshin. I unsealed the Neptunian god pearl and used its power to purify Yunyao's demonic soul, which allowed her soul to awaken. It was a blessing in disguise, and her strength increased tenfold." Ji Tianxing's body shuddered when he heard that. A look of as expected flashed through his eyes. He thought to himself, as I expected, the person who saved Yao Yao really was the palace master. The Neptunian god pearl within Yao Yao really is related to goddess Yaoguang. He had guessed these 2 points a very long time ago, but he had never been able to verify them. However, he had never thought that the palace master would tell him the truth personally today. He immediately realized that it was very likely for the mission the palace master had given him to be related to Yunyao. As expected, the palace master continued sternly, "It's just a pity that when I used the Neptunian god pearl to save Yunyao, I discovered that the power within the Neptunian god pearl was not goddess Yaoguang's remnant soul. Instead, it was one of her 7 fragments. Due to some unspeakable reason, I needed to gather all of goddess Yaoguang's 7 fragments and awaken her." When he reached there, Ji Tianxing interrupted him in a hurry. He asked, "Palace master, is Yunyao really the reincarnation of goddess Yaoguang? I've had this question in my mind for a very long time. Please answer me." The palace master stared at him deeply. After a moment of silence, he nodded, sort of. Ji Tianxing frowned. He was rather doubtful. "Palace master, may I ask why you gathered all of goddess Yaoguang's 7 fragments and revived her?" The palace master glanced at him and said with an indifferent expression, "I naturally have my reasons for doing this. Right now you don't have the right to know this." Although he did not say it, Ji Tianxing could vaguely guess. He asked probingly, "Could it be related to the fate of the profound sky continent?" The palace master only stared at him emotionlessly. He did not admit or deny it. A while later he said sternly, "The Neptunian god pearl in Yunyao's body is only goddess Yaoguang's 7th fragment. There should be 6 other Neptunian god pearls in this world. They should be formed from the other 6 fragments. Ji Tianxing, the mission I'm giving you is to find the other 6 Neptunian god pearls. Only you and I know this secret. Even Yunyao doesn't know. You're Yunyao's husband. You're the person she trusts the most. Moreover, when you approach the Neptunian god pearl, your soul will sense it. As a result, you're the most suitable person for this mission." Ji Tianxing nodded. He said sternly, "Palace master, I understand what you're saying. I'm willing to accept this mission. Chapter 1143. Ji Tianxing knew very well that the patriarch had high hopes for him by telling him the secret of the Yaoguang goddess and the Neptunian divine pearl. However, searching for the Neptunian divine pearl aimlessly was just too difficult. It was an impossible mission. The patriarch said sternly, Ji Tianxing, no matter how difficult this mission is, you must complete it. Yunyao has only fused with the seventh fragment of the goddess. Although her cultivation has skyrocketed, she only has 5 years left to live. After 5 years, if she can't find another fragment to continue her life, the power of the fragment will be unbalanced, resulting in the destruction of her body and soul. Ji Tianxing felt like he had been struck by lightning when he heard this. He asked in disbelief, how can this be? Isn't Yao Yao already fine? Why did this happen? Why is she always plagued by misfortune and misfortune? The patriarch looked at him coldly and said in a deep voice, if she was just an ordinary person, she would naturally be able to die of old age and live a peaceful life. But she isn't. Her fate is destined to be extraordinary. How can it be so easy for her to become a martial arts expert and awaken as an ancient goddess? Ji Tianxing had nothing to say in response. He could only remain silent. He could not deny that the truth was as the patriarch had said. How could it be so easy to inherit the legacy of an ancient goddess? Just like himself, he had to go through countless dangers and tribulations in order to inherit Kenshin's legacy. At this moment the patriarch continued, Ji Tianxing, only you and I know about the Neptunian divine pearl. I will search for the Neptunian divine pearl with you. As for why I want to revive the Yaoguang goddess, you will understand in the future. Ji Tianxing felt much more at ease when he heard that. He nodded, Patriarch, I understand. Please give me your orders. The patriarch said seriously, the Neptunian divine pearl is a divine item, so it obviously won't appear in ordinary places. I've already searched the profound sky continent many times, but I've found nothing. There are only 2 forbidden grounds that I haven't had the time to investigate. I'm about to leave the profound sky continent, so I need you to complete this matter. The 2 forbidden areas were the God-falling cliff and the sun and moon furnace. They were both extremely dangerous places in the world. I have information about the 2 forbidden areas here. You have to look through it carefully and figure it out. When you have the corresponding confidence, you can go and investigate. Then a golden light lit up in his palm and a jade slip appeared. He waved his hand and sent the jade slip to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing took the jade slip and frowned slightly as he thought to himself, Sun-Moon Furnace? Could it be the Sun-Moon Furnace that I used to forge my broken sword in the Eastern Sea's sinkhole? Just as he was deep in thought, the palace master said in a low voice, after I leave, you must cultivate diligently and quickly improve your strength so that you can complete the mission as soon as possible. With your current strength, it's not enough for you to enter those 2 forbidden areas. Come with me, I'll take you to a place. With that said, the manor lord stood up and left the main hall, entering the depths of the imperial palace through a secret door in the corner of the hall. Ji Tianxing followed closely behind him. After walking along the dark passage for a quarter of an hour, they finally entered a dimly lit secret room. When he stepped through the door of the secret room, he only felt that he had passed through a layer of invisible bubbles, and his entire body was slightly distorted. The secret room was filled with an invisible mysterious power that made him feel strange and awkward. The palace master stopped and waved his hand to shoot out a golden dazzling light. Instantly, a dozen gemstone lamps lit up on the walls of the secret room. The colorful light illuminated the entire secret room. Ji Tianxing finally saw the appearance of the secret room clearly. It was only 100 feet in radius and the furnishings were very simple. The surrounding walls and the floor beneath his feet were paved with unknown black stone slabs. Ancient and mysterious patterns were engraved on them, emitting invisible energy waves. In the entire secret room, there was only a futon made of dark gold spiritual jade in the middle. Other than that, there was nothing else. The palace master turned to look at him and said solemnly, I'll be leaving in a few days. You can rest assured and cultivate in seclusion here. This secret room is the core of the imperial palace. It has been left behind since ancient times, and it's also a treasured place for the past palace masters to cultivate in seclusion. The time here is different from the outside world. The flow of time here is 10 times faster than the outside world. If you cultivate here for 10 days, only 1 day will pass in the outside world. However, this secret room can only allow you to cultivate in seclusion for 100 days. The power will be exhausted after that, and it will take several years for it to recover. Ji Tianxing suddenly revealed a look of surprise and said in disbelief, "Then if I cultivate in seclusion here for 100 days, only 10 days will pass in the outside world? This secret room actually has such a magical effect? It can actually change the flow of time." The palace master nodded and gave him a few more instructions before he turned and left the secret room. Following a muffled bang, the secret room's stone door closed. The secret room quieted down, leaving only Ji Tianxing alone. He stood in the secret room in a daze and looked around in disbelief, looking at the array patterns on the walls and floor. Without a doubt, it was these ancient array patterns that were suffused with a grayish-white color that caused the flow of time in the secret room to be different from the outside world. He stared at the crisscrossing and twisting array patterns and carefully observed them for a while. Suddenly, his body shook and his eyes shone with a bright light. These strange array patterns, where have I seen them before? He was a little confused and frowned in confusion, racking his brain to recall. He was very sure that this was his first time in the Imperial Palace's secret room, and also his first time seeing the array in the secret room. But for some reason these array patterns gave him a sense of déjà vu and even a little familiar. He pondered for a while before he suddenly remembered. "I remember now. It's Kenshin's tomb." Thinking of this, he quickly sat cross-legged on the futon made of spiritual jade, and his spirit entered Kenshin's tomb. Swoosh! The golden spirit sword turned into a translucent little golden person that looked exactly like him. His spirit flew across the cold and gloomy wasteland and quickly reached the edge, entering the empty area in the gray fog. In the empty area of more than 10 miles, the grayish-white ground was engraved with mysterious array patterns. Ji Tianxing carefully observed and compared them before he confirmed his guess. That's right. The mysterious array pattern in Kenshin's tomb is very similar to the mysterious array in the palace master's secret room. This discovery made him excited and he immediately fell into deep thought. The mysterious array in the palace master's secret room can change the flow of time. The array pattern in Kenshin's tomb is very similar to that array. Could it also have the effect of changing time? After careful comparison, the array pattern in Kenshin's tomb seemed to be of a higher level and countless times more profound than the array in the palace master's secret room. Chapter 1144. Ji Tianxing spent half a day carefully studying the array in the mansion master's secret chamber and the mysterious array diagram in Kenshin's tomb. After comparison, he came to a conclusion. Although the two were very similar, the difference in grade was countless times. If the array in the mansion master's secret chamber was at the primordial spirit realm, the mysterious array diagram in Kenshin's tomb was at least at the martial god realm, or even a true god realm array diagram. Of course, this was just an example. He believed that the actual grade of the two arrays was several levels higher than this. At least, with his current strength and attainments in array formations, he could not understand these two arrays at all. After half a day, he could only helplessly give up on his research. He had already made up his mind that if he had the chance in the future, he would definitely ask the mansion master about the secrets of the secret chamber's array formations. After collecting his thoughts, his soul left Kenshin's tomb and returned to the mind of his main body. He began to focus on cultivating in seclusion, consuming large amounts of spirit stones, pills, and cultivation resources to improve his strength. He cultivated the first level of the Sword Soul Path over and over again, accumulating a vast amount of magic power to condense the Sword Soul and Soul Magic Sword. Unknowingly, more than 2 months had passed. He cultivated in seclusion in the secret chamber for 80 days. His magic power had finally accumulated to the maximum, and his soul power had also reached the peak of the second level of the soul refinement realm. He finally condensed the third soul magic sword, and his strength naturally broke through to the third level of the soul refinement realm. Swoosh! When he successfully reached the third level of the soul refinement realm, his body lit up with a dazzling white light. 3 half-meter-long white soul magic swords floated behind his back. They glowed with a hazy light and released a powerful soul magic power. Every soul magic sword was imbued with an unstoppable power that could destroy anything in its path. When the 3 soul magic swords were released together, they had the power to summon the wind and rain and destroy mountains and rivers. It was absolutely terrifying. Ji Tianxing could also clearly feel that his combat strength had more than doubled. The current him was not the best in terms of strength, but his combat strength was outstanding, enough to do whatever he wanted on the continent. This is great. The manor head's secret chamber looked simple, but it had such an incredible effect. I can't waste the remaining 20 days. I'll take the opportunity to practice the 9 swords of the burial of heaven and increase the power of my swordsmanship. Thinking of this, he manipulated the divine soul golden sword and entered Kenshin's tomb to cultivate. Shua. The golden sword of divine soul took on his appearance, turning into a small transparent golden figure that appeared in the tomb of the sword god. He was standing in the middle of the grayish-white wasteland, and in front of him were the 18 cold pitch-black tombstones. The 9 tombstones on the left were still empty. There was nothing there. There were 9 tombstones on the right and 8 of them were empty. Only the first tombstone was engraved with the first level of the sword soul path. Ji Tianxing subconsciously glanced at the tombstone and saw the ancient seal script on the tombstone light up with a dark golden light. Originally, the 10-meter-tall tombstone was pitch black and emitted a cold aura of death. But at this moment, the tombstone was wrapped in a layer of hazy golden light, and it was emitting a mysterious power. What's going on? This tombstone seems a little strange. Ji Tianxing frowned and walked in front of the tombstone, full of doubts, and carefully observed it. He looked at it for a while and couldn't find any clues, so he reached out to touch the tombstone to see what was going on. However, as soon as his hands touched the tombstone flashed with a dark golden light. Shua. In just an instant, the mysterious dark golden light enveloped his divine soul. A terrifying devouring power erupted from the tombstone and swallowed him in instantly, making him unable to resist. Shua. With a flash of light, Ji Tianxing's divine soul disappeared. The golden light on the tombstone also quickly faded, and it became normal, pitch black and cold as usual. Ji Tianxing thought that after the tombstone changed and swallowed him, there would be some danger. But when he saw the scene in front of him clearly, he was stunned on the spot. He was swallowed by the tombstone and entered a strange space. All around him, above his head and below his feet, were endless white clouds and thick fog. In the sea of clouds in front of him, there was a white jade stone bridge that was more than 10 feet wide and 100 meters long, connecting to the depths of the sea of clouds. On the other end of the white jade stone bridge, there was a mysterious pagoda that was more than 1,000 feet tall and had a total of 5 floors, standing quietly in the sea of clouds. The gently rolling white clouds and thick fog covered more than half of the pagoda, making it difficult for him to see clearly. The pagoda's design was extremely dignified and luxurious, like the palace of the gods in heaven. The pagoda had 8 corners, and on the cornice of each corner, there was a statue of a mythical beast. There was a golden dragon, a fire dragon, a black dragon, a silver dragon, a phoenix, a vermilion bird, a white tiger, and so on. The entire pagoda was dark golden and shone with a faint golden light in the sea of clouds, looking incomparably sacred. Ji Tianxing looked up at the sacred and majestic pagoda, his face full of shock and disbelief. It's just an ordinary tombstone in a Kenshin tomb, but there's actually another world inside, and such a mysterious space is hidden? It seems that my understanding of the Kenshin tomb is too little. There are still many secrets hidden in the Kenshin tomb that I can't even imagine. He sighed emotionally and let out a sigh. After calming down, he stepped onto the white jade stone bridge and passed through the hazy sea of clouds, walking toward the golden pagoda on the other end of the stone bridge. When he crossed the white jade stone bridge and arrived at the door of the pagoda, he saw that there were 99 steps of white jade stairs in front of him, connecting to the door of the pagoda. On both sides of the door there were 9 tall and majestic statues. Each statue was wearing silver armor and a golden cape, with a divine weapon at their waist and an ancient halberd in their hands. Without a doubt, these 18 statues were all guards, all of them majestic and domineering. Right above the gate, there was a broad and magnificent plaque with 3 dark golden ancient seal characters engraved on it. Ji Tianxing looked for a while before he recognized the 3 ancient characters. It was the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion. Heavenly Sutra Pavilion? Where is this place? From the name, could it be a place to store books? He raised his eyebrows and muttered silently in his heart. He looked at the door of the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion and found that the 30-meter-tall door was tightly shut. There were vivid carvings of a golden dragon and a fire phoenix on the door. However, there was no door knocker on the door, nor was there any array to open the door. Ji Tianqing muttered for a while, but he didn't know how to open the door, so he stretched out his hands and pushed. When his hands touched the door immediately lit up with a dazzling golden light, and the carvings of the golden dragon and fire phoenix seemed to come to life. Swoosh, swoosh. The golden dragon and the fire phoenix both turned their heads to look at him. Then they wriggled their bodies into the door and disappeared. Ji Tianqing was dumbfounded as he watched. He exclaimed in his heart. Chapter 1145. When the door of the Heavenly Book Pavilion opened, a ray of bright golden light shone out from the main hall. Ji Tianqing was startled. He turned to look at the sky above his head and the sea of clouds around him. The surroundings were shrouded in clouds and mist. Although it was not too dark, it was not too bright either. On the contrary, the main hall of the Heavenly Book Pavilion was surrounded by bright golden light, making it look resplendent. Ji Tianqing was a little puzzled. He stepped into the main hall and sized up the situation inside. The main hall was very spacious and bright. It had a radius of 100 meters. The surrounding walls were inlaid with gemstones and bright lights, shining with a dark golden light. The floor was paved with dark white jade and was engraved with exquisite and beautiful patterns. It was a magnificent star map. In the middle of the main hall was a wide passage, with dozens of bookshelves arranged neatly on both sides. Those bookshelves were like magic treasures. They were made of special materials and were engraved with formations, emitting an invisible and powerful force. Each bookshelf was 30 meters long with dozens to hundreds of books placed on it. The situation was just as Ji Tianqing had guessed. This Heavenly Book Pavilion was a treasure. He strolled among the many bookshelves and carefully observed for a moment. Then he found a clue. The floor of the main hall and the dozens of bookshelves were spotless and clean as if they were new. This made him frown and he muttered to himself, "Strange, there is a space hidden in the tombstone, and there is a mysterious Heavenly Book Pavilion. This place has been through at least 1,000 years, so why is it still brand new and clean? There is not even a trace of the passage of time?" He vaguely felt that this Heavenly Book Pavilion was a little strange. However, since he had entered the Heavenly Book Pavilion, he could not just leave. Of course, he had to find out what was going on. He wandered among the many bookshelves, his gaze searching the bookshelves, sweeping through row after row of books. After a quarter of an hour, he had checked more than 20 bookshelves and swept through tens of thousands of books. Without exception, these books were all history books and biographies, recording all kinds of secret stories and biographies of famous people. Most of the books were similar to the biography of the Supreme Sword Great Emperor, records of Dark Parasol, travels on Kuanyue Mountain, and records of 10,000 years. However, the legendary people and places described in these history books and biographies, as well as the various cultural styles, were all things that Ji Tianqing had never heard of. He even suspected that the powerhouses and places recorded in these biographies were not in the Tianxian continent. Moreover, each bookshelf was sealed and protected by a mysterious formation. The power of the formation could protect the books from the passage of time. Of the books. Of the Heavenly Book Pavilion. It was probably because the books stored on this bookshelf were not particularly important or precious that the level of the sealing formation was relatively low. Ji Tianqing spent a day to break the seal on the bookshelf, of Heavenly Book. Of Heavenly Book. Of Heavenly Book. Of Heavenly Book. Of. This was exactly what he wanted to see. He flipped through the Heavenly Book Pavilion carefully, checking the contents page by page. About 2 hours later, he finally finished reading the Heavenly Book Pavilion. He had a corresponding understanding of the Tianxian continent in the ancient era. He understood many myths, legends, and ancient secrets. According to the book, at the beginning of the ancient era, the Tianxian continent was still in an uncivilized era. At that time, the 5 continents coexisted. They were very far away from each other, but they had not been sealed by the gods. At that time, there were thousands of races living together in the Tianxian continent. Humans were not the masters of the continent. They were still building kingdoms without restraint. Wars broke out frequently over food, minerals, and territory. Martial arts cultivation was still in its infancy. Mortals could only cultivate to the heavenly origin realm at most, which was the limit. A heavenly origin realm powerhouse could lead many kingdoms and form a super empire. They occupied 20 to 30% of the human territory. Later on, many gods descended from the sky and came to the continent. Many deities protected the various races and taught them martial arts and cultivation methods. From then on, the various races gradually grasped the cultivation methods. They learned how to communicate with the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and use various training resources to increase their strength. Martial arts entered a stage of rapid development. Martial arts geniuses emerged one after another. Elite martial artists also emerged like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. The human race also gradually broke away from the stage where the kingdoms ruled the world. Powerful sects and families kept appearing to rule over the kingdoms, although there would be some conflicts and friction between the various races. However, under the leadership of the gods, the people of the various races always found a way to live in peace and live together. Although the human race was innately weak and was one of the weaker races in the world. However, the human race had superior wisdom and powerful learning and comprehension ability. After thousands of years of reproduction, the human race gradually became one of the major races on the continent. After many more years, the human race, the demon race, and the water clan became the three most powerful races on the continent. They established the tripartite balance of power. The Xianxia continent at that time was the most glorious and the most magnificent era of martial arts. There were billions of living beings cultivating the martial Tao, and there were also gods controlling the continent, protecting the various races and recuperating. However, the good times did not last long. Not long after, a small-scale battle between the gods broke out. The power of the battle between the gods shattered the world barrier and created a hole in the sky. On the other side of the hole, it was connected to another world. In that world there lived a very powerful and strange race. The people of that race were born with endless strength. Their power, defense, and speed far surpassed any other race on the Xianxia continent. Additionally, they were proficient in killing and fighting techniques. They could also swallow the gloomy and evil chi between the heaven and earth. They could suck the flesh and soul of living creatures to increase their own power quickly. Without a doubt, this powerful and evil race was the Devil Clan. That strange world was extremely lacking in resources, and it was also broken and incomplete. Clearly, the Devil Clan was unwilling to stay in that broken world. Under the lead of the ancestor Devil God, they all passed through the hole in the sky and poured into the Xianxia land that was even more vast and rich in resources. Thus, a disaster befell the Xianxia land. After countless devil clans poured into the Xianxia land, they invaded the territories of the various races and plundered their products and resources. They slaughtered the living creatures of various races wantonly, swallowed the flesh and soul of living creatures, and practiced evil secret techniques to increase their power quickly. Billions of devil clans covered the Xianxia land like a black tide. The living creatures of various races were brutally slaughtered and enslaved as they fell into an abyss of suffering. Chapter 1146. Those few hundred years were the darkest and cruelest era of the Xianxia land. All clans were slaughtered and enslaved by the Devil Clan. They became the lowest slaves and lived a life worse than pigs and dogs. The divine beings that protected all clans kept attacking the Devil Clan. They swore to drive the Devil Clan out of the Xianxia land or annihilate them completely. However, the power of the ancestor Devil God surpassed all the divine beings' expectations. Wherever he went, he set off a reign of terror and brought all kinds of calamities to the Xianxia land. Many divine beings called him the Death God. The Death God did not fight alone. He had many powerful devil gods under his command. Even when the divine beings of all clans joined hands, they were not a match for the Death God and many devil gods. In the end, many divine beings discussed and made a decision. They asked the divine beings above the 9 heavens for help. They borrowed a divine pearl from one of the supreme divine beings. The divine beings joined hands and used the divine pearl to fill the hole in the sky. They blocked the passage to the strange world to prevent more devil clan from pouring into the Xianxia land. Additionally, the Yao Guang goddess above the 9 heavens also descended to the Xianxia land with the divine light of the 7 glorious stars. When she saw the suffering of all living things, the Yao Guang goddess was also moved. She was incomparably furious and hated the devil clan to the extreme. Under her leadership, the divine beings joined hands and engaged in a life and death battle with the Death God and many devil gods. Thus, the battle of the divine beings broke out. No one knew where the battlefield of the divine beings was or how many years it lasted. The people of the land only knew that the Yao Guang goddess chose to sacrifice herself to save all living things in the Xianxia land. She burned her godhead and soul to perish together with the ancestor devil god. After the battle of the divine beings, the heavens and earth shook for a few dozen years before calming down. In those few dozen years the sky was dim and the earth was dark. The entire land was filled with five-colored spiritual qi. When the heavens and earth returned to the light, all the divine beings disappeared without a trace and never appeared again. The devil clan lost the protection of the death god and many devil gods. They were defeated by all clans in the world. In the end they retreated to the northern desert. Legend had it that the divine beings above the 9 heavens were furious and sent down divine punishment. They turned the northern desert into an extremely poor and cold land of death. Before goddess Yaoguang died, she planted an eternal bloodline curse on the demons. Every time there was a full moon, the demons would reveal their true forms. They would become incomparably ugly and suffer great pain and torture. The profound sky continent was also sealed by the gods and isolated from the other continents to prevent the demons from escaping to the other continents and harming more living beings. And the deeds of goddess Yaoguang became an eternal legend, passed down through the long river of history. Although goddess Yaoguang had fallen, there were 2 lines in the book that were thought-provoking. As long as the 7 stars of the northern division were not destroyed, goddess Yaoguang would not fall. One day the 7 planets' divine radiance would illuminate the world once more. After Ji Tianqing finished reading the ancient book, he had a deep impression of the contents and information. He would never forget it. Facts also proved that the records in the ancient book were correct. The Big Dipper was eternal and indestructible, and goddess Yaoguang did not truly fall. After millions of years she was reborn in Yun Yao's body. After closing the ancient book he placed it back on the bookshelf. His heart was filled with emotions. The ancient legends and deeds described in the book are very similar to the door of heavenly awakening and that dilapidated world. Looks like the divine bead that was borrowed from a certain god above the 9 heavens mentioned in the book is the heaven-mending pearl in my mind. In this case the heaven-mending pearl is a true divine object. Turns out that the demons were not originally a race of the profound sky continent. They invaded the profound sky continent from that dilapidated world. He thought about it slightly and understood many things and mysteries. Those illusory myths and legends were also verified one by one. They were all real. After Ji Tianqing put down the ancient book, he pondered for a long time before leaving the first level of the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion and walking towards the second level. Between the first level of the hall and the second level, there was a layer of invisible sealing array. What was gratifying was that Ji Tianqing stepped over the seal effortlessly and entered the second level of the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion. In the second level of the hall, it was similarly spacious and bright. Many bookshelves were placed. Many books were placed on each bookshelf. They were all imprisoned by a sealing array. The difference was that the many books displayed on those antique bookshelves were all cultivation method manuals. Ji Tianqing looked through countless bookshelves and discovered that the cultivation methods displayed on those bookshelves were at least cultivation methods of the primordial soul realm and above. Even the lowest level cultivation method was a secret art that could only be cultivated by primordial soul realm experts. The vast majority of cultivation method manuals could only be cultivated by primordial soul realm experts and above. Ji Tianqing passed through each bookshelf and searched for a long time before he found the lowest level cultivation method, which was a relatively simple primordial soul realm cultivation method. This cultivation method manual was called the Primordial Soul Leaving Body Mystic Technique. Ji Tianqing had long understood that only primordial soul realm experts could condense primordial soul dharma idol and release the primordial soul from the body to kill enemies thousands of miles away. Although the physical body of a soul refinement realm expert was destroyed, the remaining divine soul could also be restored. However, the divine soul of a soul refinement realm expert could not leave the body for too long. There was also a certain limit to the distance and the divine soul would lose its dharmic powers and power. However, primordial soul realm experts were not restricted by this. Their primordial soul could leave the body. No matter how far away it was from the body, it could still exert great power. Ji Tianqing broke the seal on the bookshelf. After taking out the ancient book, he carefully flipped through it for a long time. He compared the cultivation method in the ancient book and according to the primordial soul leaving body mystic technique, he began to analyze and try to cultivate it repeatedly. This ancient book was a cultivation method for primordial soul realm experts. However, he had already broken the seal and obtained this manual. Moreover, he could understand the contents of the manual and cultivate according to the incantation. This made him realize that he could also cultivate this cultivation method manual and that it might have special effects. Unknowingly, half a month passed. After half a month of tough cultivation, Ji Tianqing finally understood the essence of the primordial soul leaving body mystic technique and successfully cultivated this cultivation method. Although he had not cultivated the primordial soul, after cultivating this cultivation method, his divine soul could also have the effect of leaving the body. From now on, his divine soul could also fly out of his body and maintain it for a long time. Even his divine soul golden sword could fly thousands of miles and kill enemies from a distance. The magical effect of this cultivation method allowed him to feel the wonders of the primordial soul realm in advance. Although this was only an invisible improvement, it also increased his combat strength by several times and had great convenience. After ending his seclusion, he left the Heavenly Book Pavilion. The 100-day deadline was about to be up. He could only leave temporarily. Otherwise, the power of the Mansion Master's secret chamber would be exhausted. Anyway, the Heavenly Book Pavilion was in the space inside the tombstone. If he wanted to read any information in the future, he could come back again. After leaving the Heavenly Book Pavilion, his divine soul returned to the Mansion Master's secret chamber. Chapter 1147. Although Ji Tianqing had been in seclusion in the Palace Master's secret room for 100 days. But after he walked out of the Palace Master's secret room, only 10 days had passed in the outside world. Inside the palace, the light was dim and quiet. The Palace Master had already left. Ji Tianqing walked out of the palace and flew to the Tianqing Palace as fast as lightning. After half an hour, he had just returned to the entrance of the Tianqing Palace when a guard commander came to greet him. Reporting to the Domain Master, His Majesty the Son of Heaven came to look for you in the evening the day before yesterday. You were not in the palace, so he left. This subordinate saw his expression and reaction. It seems that he has something very important to look for you. Hearing this news, Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, something very important? Could it be about Long Zai Tian? So he ordered the guard commander, quickly go to the Cloud Palace and invite His Majesty the Son of Heaven to come over for a discussion. The guard commander acknowledged the order and hurried to Cloudy Palace. Ji Tianqing returned to his residence and sat in the study room, patiently waiting. After half an hour, Long Yunxiao rushed over with an anxious expression. He strode into the study room and nodded to Ji Tianqing as a greeting. Ji Tianqing saw his dignified expression and a hint of worry between his brows. He realized that things were not good and quickly asked, Son of Heaven, why are you looking for me? Is there a result of that matter? Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said in a gloomy tone, This monarch knows that Long Zai Tian's strength has reached the soul-refining realm and is very difficult to deal with. So this monarch specially arranged 2 soul-refining realm powerhouses to handle this matter, to ensure that nothing goes wrong. The original plan was very smooth and they took action the day before arriving at the border. Long Zai Tian was seriously injured by them and was about to lose his life. But suddenly, a mysterious powerhouse came out and rescued Long Zai Tian. Suddenly hearing this news, Ji Tianqing frowned, his pupils constricted and his eyes flashed with a cold light. Long Zai Tian was rescued? Then did your people investigate who rescued Long Zai Tian? Where did Long Zai Tian go? Long Yunxiao nodded and said in a low voice, Of course they did. It's a pity that the mysterious expert was too strong and didn't reveal his identity. They had also been severely injured by the mysterious expert and were on the verge of death. Luckily they had managed to escape. As for where Long Zai Tian was rescued, no one knows. This monarch's people are still investigating. Damn it! Ji Tianqing angrily said, It wasn't easy for us to bring down Long Zai Tian, and now we're about to cut the weeds and pull out the roots, eliminating all future troubles. Unexpectedly, he was rescued by someone and his whereabouts were unknown. If we allow him to recover and build a powerful force, he will definitely come back and take revenge on us. Although I'm not afraid of his revenge, this is still a troublesome matter. Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said with a heart full of resentment, That's right. This sovereign has been unable to sleep for the past few days. As long as Long Zai Tian doesn't die, this sovereign will feel like a thorn in his back. Ji Tianqing was silent for a moment, then said with a serious face, "Since it has already happened, this is the only way. Long Zai Tian is a scheming person. When I took away the myriad gu altar, he had already predicted the result and must have made arrangements in advance. That mysterious expert who rescued him is very likely a backup plan arranged by him in advance. But I really can't think of anything. Besides Yu Tianhong and Murongjing, who else has a soul refinement realm expert under him?" Long Yunxiao frowned and looked at him with shining eyes. He transmitted his voice. After the plan failed, the two experts arranged by this monarch reported the situation to this monarch in detail. That mysterious expert's physique didn't look like a human, and the cultivation methods and secret skills he used were also not human martial arts. According to their speculations, that mysterious expert was most likely a demon. What? Ji Tianxing was stunned and showed a startled expression. The mysterious expert who rescued Long Zai Tian was actually a demon? Could it be that Long Zai Tian had long been secretly colluding with the demon? Long Yunxiao shook his head and said with a puzzled face, "This monarch also doesn't understand and feels that this matter is fishy. No matter how sinister and despicable Long Zai Tian is, he would never dare to collude with the demon. That is a taboo of the human race. If he really colluded with the demon, the emperor would have already dealt with him." Hearing his analysis, Ji Tianxing became more and more puzzled. If Long Zai Tian didn't collude with the demon, why did the demon expert rescue him? This monarch also doesn't know. I can only send people to continue the investigation. Long Yunxiao showed a helpless expression. Ji Tianxing nodded and said in a deep voice, "Son of Heaven, this matter can only be done by you. You must investigate it thoroughly. It's best if you can find Long Zai Tian's whereabouts. If you can't completely kill him, we will have to be on guard against his revenge in the future." Long Yunxiao slightly nodded and said, "This monarch understands. Don't worry, this is the most important matter for this monarch. In addition, this monarch came to find you for a second matter. The imperial court has already dealt with many rich and powerful families and forces. This matter is gradually calming down. Now the emperor wants to deal with the myriad gu altar. After all, Murongjing, Yu Tianhong and many other rich and powerful families are still under the control of the gu poison. The imperial court wants to take back this evil magic treasure and completely destroy it so as to prevent this evil item from spreading and causing trouble to the human world. Tianxing, the emperor ordered this monarch to find you. Hand over the myriad gu altar to this monarch so that this monarch can report back to the imperial court." The imperial court's decision was already within Ji Tianxing's expectations. He didn't feel surprised at all, nor did he resist or be unwilling. He took out the myriad gu altar and handed it over to Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao solemnly accepted the myriad gu altar before bidding farewell to him and leaving Tianxing Palace. After Long Yunxiao left, Ji Tianxing sat in the study room and pondered for a while before returning to his room to rest. A day quickly passed. Early the next morning, the guard commander came to the door and reported a piece of news. Reporting to the territorial lord, "Here is a secret letter from the Donglin Divine General's residence." Xiao Han finally replied to my letter. Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows slightly with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. He waved his hand and opened the door, allowing the guard commander to bring the letter in. After receiving the letter, he asked the guard commander to leave and carefully read the contents of the letter, only to see a few lines of majestic, vigorous and powerful characters written on the fine golden silk paper. It was Xiao Han's handwriting. "Young Master Ji, this monarch has already reported to the Xiao clan about your request and specially asked for the clan elder's opinion. Now there is finally news from the clan. After this monarch received the news, this monarch immediately informed you. My ancestor left the Xiao clan several decades ago to travel outside. Fortunately, my ancestor returned to the Xiao clan 5 years ago. 1 month later, it will be the Holy Fire Festival of my clan. At that time, my clan will hold a grand celebration." Chapter 1148. After reading Xiao Han's letter, Ji Tianxing put it away and looked relieved. Fortunately, the Xiao clan's patriarch is in the Xiao clan and Xiao Han is willing to help me. Soon, I will be able to see the Xiao clan's patriarch and verify my speculation. Xiao Han had told him in Wuxia City that the Xiao clan was very far away from Zhongzhou and was hidden in a hidden forbidden area. He also mentioned in the letter that the Shao clan would be holding the Holy Fire Festival in a month's time. Although Ji Tianqing didn't know what kind of festival the Holy Fire Festival was for the time being. However, Xiao Han's tone was solemn. This festival was obviously a very important celebration for the Shao clan. Ji Tianqing calculated in his heart. It will take at least half a month to reach the Shao clan from Zhongzhou. Xiao Han will be leaving for the Shao clan in 2 days. I have to pack up and prepare to go to the Shao clan with him. After making up his mind, he got up and left Tianqing Palace for Yunyao Palace. Before he left, he had to say goodbye to Yunyao. Half an hour later, he entered Yunyao Palace and saw Yunyao in the study room. Yunyao was reading a book in the study room. She was reading the books written by the God Masters in the monarch residence. These books recorded many methods and cultivation experiences for condensing the divine soul and breaking through to the soul-tempering realm. Ji Tianqing glanced at the names of the books and guessed what Yunyao was thinking. She must be preparing to break through to the soul-tempering realm. After entering the study room, he called out, "Yao Yao." Yunyao was awakened by him. She quickly put down the ancient book in her hand and turned to look at him. She nodded and said, "Tianqing, you are here. Is there anything I can help you with?" Ji Tianqing nodded and walked to her side. He sat down and said, "Yao Yao, I will be leaving the monarch residence tomorrow to do something important." Yunyao nodded slightly and asked with concern, "How long will you be away for this time? Will it be dangerous? How about I go with you?" Ji Tianqing smiled and waved his hand. "Don't worry, there's no danger. I'm just going to a place to meet a person and confirm a matter. My departure this time will take about 2 months. I'll leave you 3 jade slips. If you have any urgent matters, just send me a message." After saying that, he took out 3 jade slips from his interspatial ring and handed them to Yunyao. Yunyao received the jade slip and put it into her interspatial ring. Then she said, "Tianqing, you can set your mind at ease and attend to your matters. Go and come back early. It just so happens that my strength has reached a bottleneck. I'm preparing to enter secluded cultivation for a few months to break through the shackles of the soul-refining realm. If everything goes smoothly, I'll probably be able to break through to the soul-refinement realm by the time you return." Ji Tianqing revealed a gratified smile and nodded. "I believe in you. You will break through smoothly." The two sat in the study for a while and chatted for a while before Ji Tianqing bid farewell and left. He didn't have anything to pack and directly left the monarch mansion. He flew over the sky of Zhongzhou City and rushed toward Wuxia City. Several hours later, he was flying thousands of meters high in the sky. At this time, Qian Yu's voice sounded in his mind. "Ji, where are we going?" Ji Tianqing was startled. With a thought, he opened the entrance to the sword world and let Qian Yu fly out. Whoosh! An icy blue light flashed and Qian Yu flew out of the sword world and appeared in the sky. It carried Ji Tianqing on its back and soared through the sky. Ji Tianqing revealed a smile and said, "I'm going to Wuxia City to find Divine General Donglin to do something." "Qian Yu, why didn't you stay in the sword world and cultivate? What are you doing out here?" Qian Yu shook its head and said in a depressed tone, "It's been almost a year. The little black dragon and I have been cultivating in seclusion in the sword world and are about to die of boredom. The Jinshan King and Ida have been busy all day exploring new territories, cultivating our veins and forging weapons in all kinds of different ways. I don't know what stimulated the little black dragon, but it only knows how to cultivate in seclusion and doesn't play with me anymore. I'm bored in there, so I came out to get some fresh air." Ji Tianqing patted its head and said with a smile, "The Earth Spirit's greatest wish is to have a peaceful place with abundant ore veins for them to rest and recuperate. The sword world is their ideal home, so of course they are busy cultivating ore veins and forging weapons. As for the little black dragon, it must have been stimulated in the Eastern Sea. That big black dragon called Long Yuan imparted many cultivation experiences and secret techniques to the little black dragon, which is of great help to it. The little black dragon has been working hard for the past year, so it must want to master the secret technique and reach the spirit refining stage as soon as possible." Speaking of this, he showed a bitter smile and said, "The Earth Spirit has been working hard, recuperating and growing stronger. The little black dragon has also been working hard. It has reached the 5th level of Sky Origin stage, and its strength has been increasing rapidly. You are the only one who is still as lazy as before, not working hard at cultivation. You should learn more from the little black dragon." Qian Yu curled his lips in dissatisfaction. I don't want to be like the little black dragon, so dull and boring. Plus, I am the noble king of spirit beasts, with extraordinary talent and natural talent. Even if I don't cultivate, I am still stronger than them. The little black dragon is only at the 5th level of Sky Origin stage and I am at the 6th level. Old Ji, why don't you praise me? In any case, Ji Tianxing was in a hurry and had nothing to do, so he chatted with Qian Yu and said sincerely, Qian Yu, it is true that your talent is higher than the little black dragon's. But you can't waste your great aptitude and talent like this, wasting your time like this, wasting your time. With such extraordinary talent, if you are as diligent as the little black dragon, you will reach the spirit refining stage soon, won't you? How about this? I will set a goal for the two of you. Whoever reaches the spirit refining stage first will be able to stay by my side. If you don't reach the spirit refining stage, you will stay in the sword world and cultivate. You are not allowed to come out. Qian Yu's face was filled with grievance and anger. He snorted coldly and said, Humph. Old Ji, you know that I am a carefree little heavenly fox who loves freedom, yet you use such a vicious punishment on me. You heartless guy, you only know how to side with the little black dragon. Ji Tianxing rolled his eyes, don't play the pitiful with me. I am doing this for your own good. No bargaining. With that he flipped his hand and a white light appeared, opening the entrance to the sword world. Qian Yu was unable to resist and was directly sucked into the sword world. Qian Yu was filled with helplessness and depression. He could only return to the peaceful Earth City and disturb the little black dragon who was cultivating in seclusion. Before they knew it, 5 days had passed. Chapter 1149. When Ji Tianxing entered Wuxia City, Xiao Han was already waiting for him in the city lord's mansion. After the two met in the city lord's mansion's guest hall, they exchanged some pleasantries before sitting down to chat. 10 days ago, Xiao Han received a reply from the Xiao clan and sent a secret letter to Ji Tianxing. After settling the military affairs in the Eastern Sea, he rushed back to Wuxia City to wait for Ji Tianxing's arrival. The two agreed on the date and decided to depart for the Xiao clan early in the morning. Ji Tianxing was puzzled and asked Xiao Han, Sir Divine General, we will be heading to the Xiao clan tomorrow. Can Sir Divine General please tell me where the Xiao clan is? Xiao Han revealed a meaningful smile and transmitted his voice. You will know tomorrow anyway, so there's no harm in telling you. The Xiao clan is actually hidden in the most dangerous forbidden area on the continent, in the depths of the Southern Desolation Swamp. Very few people dare to enter the Southern Desolation Swamp as it is too dangerous. Those who enter rashly will most likely lose their lives. Moreover, the Xiao clan is in a grotto heaven and the entrance is very well hidden. Even if ordinary people know where the Xiao clan is, they won't be able to find the entrance, let alone enter. Ji Tianxing finally understood and nodded. Everyone thinks that the Southern Desolation Swamp is a land of God's punishment with endless dangers hidden in it. No one lives there. No one expected the Xiao clan to live in seclusion in the Southern Desolation Swamp. No wonder they can live in seclusion for thousands of years. The Xiao clan dares to live in seclusion in the Southern Desolation Swamp. This shows the courage, determination and means of the Xiao clan's patriarch. They are all extraordinary. Young Master Ji, you flatter me. Xiao Han said modestly. There are still 20 days before the Holy Fire Festival. With our speed we will be just in time to return to the Xiao clan. Ji Tianxing quickly asked, Sir Divine General, can you explain what the Holy Fire Festival is? I would like to know more about this festival so that there won't be any misunderstandings. Well, that's good too. Xiao Han thought for a while and explained, the Holy Fire Festival is a grand celebration held once every 20 years in the Xiao clan. This festival would last for 3 days. Sacred flames would be lit all over the clan, and they would not be extinguished for 3 days and 3 nights. During the Holy Fire Festival, the new generation of Xiao clan's disciples would be tested and tested by the clan. Only the top 2 that passed the test were qualified to leave the Xiao clan and venture into the Xianxia land. The disciples of the Xiao clan who failed to obtain the top 2 positions could only wait for the next Holy Fire Festival 20 years later. If the disciples of the Xiao clan were still unable to obtain the top 2 positions in the second Holy Fire Festival, they would have to stay in the Xiao clan forever and reproduce until they died of old age. Every disciple of the Xiao clan had 2 chances to leave, but only the most outstanding disciples could head to the outside world. At the same time, the Holy Fire Festival was also a celebration for young men and women to court each other. Boys and girls who express their love in public during the Holy Fire Festival and receive a response will receive the blessings of the entire clan. After listening to Xiao Han's explanation, Ji Tianxing couldn't help but reveal a smile. It sounds rather interesting. Not only can it allow the Xiao clan to maintain peace and friendship, it can also motivate the younger generation. It seems like this Holy Fire Festival is of great significance to the Xiao clan. Of course. Xiao Han nodded and said, other than the Xiao clan's patriarch's birthday every 100 years, the Holy Fire Festival is the grandest festival. This time I used the Holy Fire Festival as an opportunity to find an excuse that the elders couldn't reject. I want to witness the test process with my own eyes and bring out the two most outstanding disciples of the Xiao clan to train under me. Ji Tianxing's eyes couldn't help but light up. He smiled and said, this excuse is indeed hard for the Xiao clan to reject. After all, you are the Donglin Divine General, one of the most respected figures in the continent. If the two inexperienced disciples of the Xiao clan could receive your guidance and nurture, it would be a great blessing and opportunity. I'm afraid all the young disciples would dream of it. Xiao Han smiled and nodded. That's right. I used this excuse to get the elders to agree to let me bring you into the Xiao clan. However, the Xiao clan's rules are there, and the elders can't openly violate them. I can bring you into the Xiao clan, but you have to suffer some grievances to cover up this matter. Ji Tianxing was already mentally prepared. He asked, Sir Divine General, may I ask what I need to do? Xiao Han looked at him deeply and asked tentatively, you have to pretend to be a disciple of the Xiao clan and use the identity of my nephew to follow me into the Xiao clan. Of course, I don't mean to take advantage of you. This is just an expedient measure. Everyone knows about it. Ji Tianxing thought for a while and agreed readily. Sir Divine General, you are too polite. You are a senior who has lived for more than 100 years and is also the Divine General who guards the Eastern Sea. I am your junior and it is reasonable for me to call you uncle. There is no grievance. Seeing him agree so readily, the last trace of worry in Xiao Han's heart disappeared. He quickly smiled and nodded. Since young Master Ji is so righteous, then I am relieved. You can rest in the city lord's mansion today. Tomorrow morning we will leave for the southern wasteland swamp. Okay. Ji Tianxing nodded and went to rest under the guidance of the housekeeper. A day passed by quickly. Early in the morning of the second day, Ji Tianxing left the city lord's mansion with Xiao Han. The two of them flew up to the sky and rushed to the south as fast as lightning. The distance from the central continent to the southern wasteland swamp was too far. A year ago, Ji Tianxing was only at the 8th level of the sky origin stage. It took him 3 months to reach the southern wasteland city from the central continent. But it was different now. He and Xiao Han were both powerhouses of the soul refining stage. Their speed was several times faster than before. Xiao Han was driving a flying magic weapon. It was a black flying boat of the soul level. It was like a stream of light cutting through the sky as fast as lightning. Ji Tianxing was standing on a blazing white soul magic sword. He was like a white light flying side by side with Xiao Han. In fact, he was as fast as Xiao Han with only 50% of his strength. If he drove the soul magic sword with all his strength, he would be twice as fast as Xiao Han. The two of them flew all the way and didn't encounter any danger or trouble. About 14 days later, the two of them had crossed more than half of the southern continent and arrived at the southern wasteland city. The long journey and flying had consumed a lot of their magic power. Both of them looked travel-worn and fatigued. The two of them prepared to enter the southern wasteland city and rest for the night. They would continue their journey tomorrow morning. It was evening and the sun hadn't completely set yet. However, when the two of them were 100 miles away from the southern wasteland city, they saw that the sky was dark. On the vast grassland outside the southern wasteland city, there were countless huge figures, flying as fast as the wind, attacking the southern wasteland city. Even in the sky around the southern wasteland city, there were tens of thousands of birds and black figures, covering the sky and covering the sun. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Chapter 1150. A year ago, when Ji Tianxing came to southern wasteland city for the first time, he had heard about the beast tide. The so-called beast tide was when a large number of demon beasts rushed out of the southern wasteland swamp at a specific time and attacked the surrounding cities and towns. Countless demon beasts and birds covered the sky like a tide, wantonly destroying the cities and slaughtering the civilians. Although Ji Tianxing did not encounter such a thing at that time, he had paid attention to the information about the beast tide. He knew that there would be a beast tide in southern wasteland city every 2 years, but the specific time was not fixed. Every time a beast tide broke out, it would bring great destruction to southern wasteland city, causing the deaths of countless warriors and civilians. After a beast tide, southern wasteland city would be in a mess, with corpses everywhere and rivers of blood. But the civilians of southern wasteland city resisted the beast tide tenaciously, wiped away their blood and tears, cleaned up the city and continued to live a strong life. Ji Tianxing did not expect that he would not encounter a beast tide outbreak a year ago, but today he happened to encounter one. As a divine general, Xiao Han was naturally experienced and knowledgeable, and he knew what a beast tide was. His expression changed immediately, and he accelerated towards southern wasteland city. Quick! Let's hurry to southern wasteland city and stop the beast tide from invading, and protect the civilians in the city. Although the southern continent and southern wasteland city were not under his jurisdiction. But as a divine general of the imperial court, it was his duty to protect the civilians and territory of the human race, regardless of region. Ji Tianxing was no exception. As a transcendent expert, how could he stand aside and watch the civilians suffer a disaster with his own eyes? Swoosh! Swoosh! The two of them flew towards southern wasteland city as fast as light, and arrived above the city gate in the blink of an eye. On the grassland outside the city, there were thousands of ferocious demon beasts, madly rushing towards southern wasteland city. Those demon beasts were of different races. There were cloud leopards with silver stripes all over their bodies, flame tigers with fiery red bodies, thunder beasts with 4 feet on fire, and electric arcs on their antennae. Most of the demon beasts had the strength of the metaphysical realm, and their bodies were about 1 to 2 zhang long and 2 to 3 meters tall. A few of the demon beasts were as large as houses, aggressive and full of murderous intent. They were all Origin Core Realm demon beasts. And in the sky there were several giant demon beasts with wings, all of which had the strength of the Origin Realm. The 6 demon beasts were the leaders of the thousands of demon beasts. Were the leaders. Their intelligence was quite high. They stood in the sky, overlooking the group of demonic beasts on the grassland, as well as the situation inside the southern wasteland city. Southern beasts, demon beasts, southern wasteland city were in the sky from different directions and tried to tear wasteland city's defense. As for the 1,000-meter-high sky, the number of demonic beasts and birds that covered the sky was even greater. There were as many as 30 to 40,000 of them. The leading birds had a wingspan of nearly 100 meters, which was huge enough to cover the sky and the sun. Their wings stirred up strong winds like tornadoes as they rushed towards the southern wasteland city. Fortunately, the southern wasteland city seemed to have received the news in advance. They knew that the beast tide was about to break out and had already made corresponding preparations. Experience time. Times of hundreds of demon beasts. Every time a demon beast tide broke out, there would be some signs. The 2 city gates of southern wasteland city were closed, and the city defense array was activated. An earthy yellow light shield with a radius of 100 miles enveloped the entire southern wasteland city. Above the city wall, tens of thousands of city guards and warriors were holding swords and crossbows, ready for battle. Between the battlements of the city wall, many ballistae, catapults and spears were set up. When the demon beasts from all directions crazily attacked the defensive formation of the southern wasteland city, the dark yellow light shield started to shake intensely under the bombardment of the fierce attacks. Countless city guards started to fight back. They controlled the ballistae, catapults and spears to release countless steel arrows, millstone stones and fine steel spears. Thousands of arrows and fine steel spears formed a rain of arrows, crazily raining down on the demon beasts around the city. Countless millstone-sized rocks, carrying a violent force, ruthlessly smashed towards the demon beasts that were charging from all directions. Swish, swish, swish. Bang, bang, bang. The rain of arrows covered the sky and the giant stones pierced through the sky. Countless crazy demon beasts were pierced through by the steel arrows and spears. They fell on the grassland with blood all over their bodies, or were nailed to the ground. There were also many huge demon beasts that were hit by the millstone stones falling from the sky. Their bones and flesh were smashed and they fell to the ground, letting out angry roars. For a moment, the sound of arrows piercing through the sky, the sound of rocks colliding with flesh, and the roars of the demon beasts intertwined into a deafening sound wave fiercely reverberating around the southern wasteland city. Although demon beasts were knocked down to the ground one after another, they were killed on the spot, and their flesh and blood were scattered all over the grassland. But this tragic scene did not frighten the other demon beasts. On the contrary, it stimulated their fierceness even more. They launched an even more desperate attack, using all their strength to fiercely attack the city defense array of the southern wasteland city. Tens of thousands of demon beasts and birds in the sky also spat out flames, ice and spirit energy blades, wantonly bombarding the city defense array. Countless city guards and warriors of the southern wasteland city went all out to operate the city defense array, strenuously supporting it, resisting the fierce attack of the demon beast tide. However, the city defense array's power was quickly consumed, and it was on the verge of collapse. At the end of the grassland outside the city, endless demon beasts continuously rushed out of the forest, crossing the grassland as fast as the wind, and rushed toward the southern wasteland city while roaring. The situation of the southern wasteland city was getting more and more dangerous. The city defense array became thinner and thinner, shaking more and more violently, and even numerous cracks appeared. The city defense array was about to be breached by the demon beast tide. Once the demon beast army rushed into the city, countless city guards and warriors would have to fight the demon beasts in close quarters. At that time, the southern wasteland city would certainly be plunged into disaster and war. It would be too horrible to look at. At this critical moment, Xiao Han could not help but take action. Damn evil beasts, die. He stepped into the sky, reaching a height of 1,000 meters in 3 steps, and waved his big sleeves, shooting out hundreds and thousands of 5-colored light blades. Sky Wind Feather Blade. Thousands of 5-colored light blades, each more than 3 meters long, contained incomparably sharp power. Swish swish swish. The overwhelming 5-colored light blades, like a rain of arrows, poured down, and instantly hit more than 200 demon beasts. Those demon beasts did not have time to react and simply had no time to dodge. They were killed on the spot by the 5-colored light blades, and even their corpses were cut into pieces of meat. Countless pieces of meat mixed with blood sprinkled on the dark green grassland, emitting a pungent smell of blood, and dyeing the grassland dark red. Xiao Han's move intimidated countless demon beasts, and also made countless city guards and warriors on the city wall exclaim. Tianxia also did not want to be outdone. He jumped into the sky and pounced toward the demon beasts and birds high in the sky. Chapter 1151. Tianxia understood better than anyone the principle of capturing the leader first. There were tens of thousands of bird demon beasts in the sky, densely covering the sky. No matter how strong he and Xiao Han were, how many of them could they kill? Only by killing the leader of the demon beasts first would they be able to intimidate the beast tide to the greatest extent. Swoosh. Tianxia turned into a beam of golden light and instantly rushed to the vicinity of the bird leaders. Without any hesitation, he directly used a powerful killing move. Metal Emperor Slash. He waved his palms, condensing a giant golden sword that was hundreds of meters long, and slashed toward the birds of the heavenly Yuan realm. The 6 bird leaders were as large as palaces, and their wings were hundreds of meters wide. They were circling in the sky, constantly emitting chirps, commanding tens of thousands of birds to attack from all directions. The sudden appearance of the giant golden sword caught them off guard and they were unable to dodge. The giant golden sword drew a beautiful arc in the sky, and at an incredible angle struck 3 bird leaders one after another. Bang bang bang. Following 3 deafening sounds, the 3 leaders of the birds were cut in half on the spot. Their corpses sprayed blood all over the sky and sprinkled down from the sky. The other 2 bird leaders sensed that something was wrong, and immediately let out a shrill and panicked cry, fleeing into the distance. Tianxia did not hesitate to chase after them, waving his hands to release 2 giant sword radiances that shot out. Another 2 muffled sounds exploded. Before the 2 bird leaders could escape far, They were pierced through by the giant sword and killed in an instant. 5 heavenly Yuan realm bird leaders were easily killed by Ji Tianxing. The tens of thousands of bird demon beasts in the sky were suddenly a little flustered, and holes and gaps appeared in their formation. Countless soldiers and warriors on the city walls saw this scene with their own eyes, and immediately cheered in excitement. "Look, there are experts coming to rescue us. Great. We're saved at last. Everyone look, the demon beasts in the sky are flustered, they must be scared out of their wits. The strength of those 2 experts is so terrifying. They are definitely not from our Heaven Wasteland Empire. They are most likely experts under the command of the Domain Lord. Quickly report to the City Lord that an expert has come to our aid." The soldiers and cultivators on the city wall cheered, raising their arms and cheering for Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. They looked at the figures of Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. Their burning eyes were filled with worship. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han, one dealing with the flying birds in the sky, the other dealing with the huge demonic beasts outside the city. They fought fiercely with tens of thousands of demonic beasts. They used their secret techniques and ultimate skills with unpredictable power, often killing 100 or 200 demon beasts with a single move, which was an eye-opener for the warriors of the Southern Wasteland City and made them extremely excited. Not long after, the Southern Wasteland City Lord led 2 commanders and a few clan lords to the top of the city wall. These people were the most powerful experts and nobles of the Southern Wasteland City, and also the spiritual support of the people of the Southern Wasteland City. When they saw the heroic appearance of Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han on the city wall, they also revealed a look of shock, their eyes full of gratitude. Unknowingly, a quarter of an hour had passed. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han had both killed more than 3,000 demon beasts, but they themselves were not injured in the slightest and were still full of energy. Inside and outside the Southern Wasteland City, the corpses of demon beasts were scattered everywhere. Blood fell to the ground, dyeing the grass dark red. The battle situation was so tragic, but the beast tide was still surging. Tens of thousands of demon beasts were still unwilling to retreat, and madly attacked the Southern Wasteland City, besieging Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. The soldiers and cultivators on the city wall all relaxed, and their hearts were much more at ease. In their opinion, with the 2 super experts Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han, the safety of the Southern Wasteland City was assured. Even the mayor and the heads of the wealthy families were discussing with a smile, guessing the identity of Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. Suddenly, in the dark gray sky, a huge shadow like a mountain suddenly appeared. Swoosh! It was a shadow with a radius of 1,000 meters, carrying a terrifying aura that could suppress the heaven and earth, and fell from the sky. Its falling speed was extremely fast, like a huge mountain pressing down, fiercely bombarding the Southern Wasteland City. When everyone felt that something was wrong and looked up to the sky, the shadow had already rushed to the top of the Southern Wasteland City. Only then did everyone see clearly that it was a giant black bird with a length of 1,000 meters, with a pair of wings that could cover the sky and the sun. Its appearance was like a goshawk, but it had 4 thick and powerful claws, and black feathers all over its body as hard and cold as steel, emitting a sharp cold light. Especially its head, it was even more unusual. There was a bunch of dark golden feathers on its forehead, like a cluster of golden sharp swords, containing an invincible sharpness. In a pair of huge gray eyes, blood-red pupils revealed a taste of madness and bloodthirst. Ji Tianxing, Xiao Han, and the mayor of the Southern Wasteland City were stunned for a moment, and then they all reacted, exclaiming one after another. "Oh my God, what kind of monster is that? Such a huge demonic beast, its aura is so strong. It's the Sky Eagle. Its strength has reached the soul-refining stage. It's over. A soul-refining stage demonic beast is attacking the Southern Wasteland City. How can we resist it?" In just 2 breaths, the mountain-like Sky Eagle fell from the sky and bombarded the city defense array. Kaboom! In the deafening loud noise, its 4 huge, dark, cold, and incomparably sharp claws, which were as big as a house, fiercely smashed the city defense array. The dark yellow light barrier within a radius of 100 miles instantly collapsed and exploded into pieces that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, splashing in all directions. An incomparably violent hurricane raged in the Southern Wasteland City, crazily sweeping in all directions. The tall and sturdy city gate was blown down on the spot. The mayor of the southern wasteland city, 2 commanders, several leaders of wealthy families and many city guards who were standing on the city wall, were all blown away. The soldiers and warriors below the sky origin stage directly had their internal organs smashed and fell to the ground dead. The few city lords and leaders of wealthy families who had reached the sky origin stage were also seriously injured on the spot, vomiting blood and screaming after falling to the ground. In the blink of an eye, the jubilant atmosphere dissipated, and countless people fell into panic and horror. The city defense array was broken, and the southern wasteland city was exposed to the demonic beast tide, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Tens of thousands of demonic beasts suddenly became crazy with excitement, and rushed to the southern wasteland city recklessly, like a tide sweeping through the buildings in the city and countless people. In the blink of an eye, the southern wasteland city fell into a huge chaos. The buildings collapsed and countless people died under the claws of the demonic beasts. Black smoke rose from the raging fire, making the city a mess. Chapter 1152. Although Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han didn't understand why the Sky Eagle was attacking the southern wasteland city. This kind of spirit-refining realm beast was an overlord in the southern wasteland swamp. Why would it be interested in the small southern wasteland city? But they didn't have time to think about it. The most important thing now was to stop the Sky Eagle from wreaking havoc in the city and rescue the people as soon as possible. Ji Tianxing hurriedly said to Xiao Han, "Lord Divine General, please stop the beast tide and protect the people in the city. I will deal with the Sky Eagle." Xiao Han immediately shook his head and said worriedly, "Young Master Ji, that Sky Eagle is a 1,000-year-old demon king. Its strength is comparable to a 6th or 7th level spirit-refining realm expert. You can't deal with it alone. It's too dangerous. If you want to deal with it, you and I have to work together." Ji Tianxing looked at him with a resolute gaze and said in a resolute tone, "Lord Xiao, please trust me and let me deal with it. You are the divine general of the imperial court. Protecting the people is your top priority." Then he rushed to the Sky Eagle without looking back. His whole body was bursting with murderous intent. 3 blazing soul magic swords flew out from his back. Xiao Han was stunned. He looked at Ji Tianxing's back with a complicated expression. He pursed his lips and said, "Young Master Ji, you must be careful." How could he not understand that protecting the people in the city was more important and easier? Dealing with the Sky Eagle was the most dangerous. The slightest carelessness could cost one's life. But Ji Tianxing chose to deal with the Sky Eagle and took the initiative to risk his life. How noble and righteous was this? Xiao Han didn't say it, but he admired Ji Tianxing very much. The more he interacted with Ji Tianxing, the more he understood Ji Tianxing, the more he admired this young man. He was really a peerless talent with good character. He looked at Ji Tianxing deeply, then turned and flew to the southern wasteland city to rescue the people and kill the demon beast that invaded the city. The Sky Eagle didn't stop after destroying the city defense array. It didn't attack the people. It seemed to have a target. Its figure flashed and flew deep into the southern wasteland city. Shwa. After a few breaths, it rushed to the deepest part of the southern wasteland city like a black shadow, and stopped in the air above a pagoda. This was an ancient pagoda that was over 1,000 feet tall, and was completely gold and red in color. The pagoda had a total of 9 floors, but it was always sealed and no one could enter. On the cornice around the pagoda, there were countless carvings of divine beasts. They were lifelike and looked extremely sacred. At the top of the pagoda stood 2 lifelike statues of 2 divine birds. The divine bird on the left was a crimson fire phoenix, while the divine bird on the right was a dark gold dragon phoenix. This pagoda was the iconic building of the southern wasteland city. It was also the holy pagoda in the hearts of all the citizens. It was said that this sacred tower had thousands of years of history and was a relic left behind from ancient times. For thousands of years, the southern wasteland city had gone through the vicissitudes of time. The city had expanded several times and it had been rebuilt more than a dozen times. However, this holy tower would always stand in the depths of the southern wasteland city. There was a poignant and touching legend about the sacred tower. However, other than the citizens of the southern wasteland city, no one believed in this legend, nor were they interested in it. The last time Ji Tianxing came to the southern wasteland city, he had noticed this pagoda and understood the relevant information. However, he did not have the time to enter the pagoda to worship and tour it, so he did not take this matter to heart. When he caught up with the Sky Eagle, he realized that the Sky Eagle was staring at the sacred tower. Only then did he realize that something was amiss. The Sky Eagle's eyes were fixed on the sacred tower. Its dark red pupils were surging with excitement and desire. It seemed to have sensed Ji Tianxing's aura and sensed that danger was approaching. It did not waste any more time and immediately took action. Swoosh! It released an endless amount of black light from its body. It flapped its wide wings and condensed into the shadow of a giant sword. It charged at the sacred tower as fast as the aurora. Kaboom! The Sky Eagle slammed into the sacred tower and there was a loud explosion. The golden-red sacred tower's defensive array was activated, and a crimson and dark gold light barrier lit up. The entire sacred tower trembled violently. The ground at the bottom of the tower cracked in all directions. However, the holy pagoda did not collapse. The golden-red barrier cracked, but it still protected the holy pagoda. Chirp! The Sky Eagle's eyes shone fiercely. It once again unleashed all its strength, and its body lit up with the white light of the divine soul. Kaboom! It charged at the sacred tower recklessly and attacked the sacred tower's defensive light barrier again. Kacha! Kacha! The golden-red light barrier cracked even wider and countless fragments burst out. It was on the verge of collapse. A super earthquake occurred in a 15-mile radius around the sacred tower. The ground cracked open and countless wide ravines were formed. Tens of thousands of houses and buildings collapsed from the earthquake, turning into ruins. Countless citizens were buried in the ruins, and they let out desperate wails as they were on the verge of death. Ji Tianxing frowned. His pupils constricted as he stared at the sacred tower. It was only at this moment that he realized that the unassuming sacred tower was actually so magical. This was because the golden red light barrier protecting the sacred tower was actually a soul-grade defensive array. The Sky Eagle's strength had reached the 6th level of the spirit refinement realm. It attacked the sacred tower with all its might twice, but it still could not break the light barrier. No, there must be something wrong with this sacred tower. What secret is hidden inside that made the Sky Eagle so crazy? This thought flashed through his mind. He was also very puzzled and curious. However, he did not have time to think about this. He made a prompt decision and used a secret technique to attack the Sky Eagle. Damned beast, die. Lightning. Ji Tianxing let out a low growl and suddenly opened the third eye on his forehead. The azure blue pupil in the golden eye released endless lightning. It condensed into a blue light pillar and blasted at the Sky Eagle. Kaboom! The Sky Eagle was hit by the lightning pillar. It let out a tragic cry and crashed into the sacred tower. Its body was charred black by the lightning. Black smoke rose in spirals and its feathers curled up. However, this was only a light injury to it. It did not affect its battle. It actually ignored Ji Tianxing. When it saw the sacred tower's defensive light barrier crack, its eyes were filled with ecstasy. It waved its 4 claws and slapped the sacred tower with all its might. Bam, bam, bam. In a series of dull sounds, the sacred tower's defensive light barrier shattered and completely collapsed. Following that, the 100 feet tall sacred tower also collapsed with a rumble. It was broken into several pieces by the Sky Eagle. Countless bricks and tiles fell from the sky to the ground. The 2 dragon and phoenix statues at the top of the tower also broke into pieces and scattered among the ruins. The Sky Eagle pounced into the pile of ruins. Its 4 claws dug into the ruins and dug out 2 dazzling balls of light. One was a fiery red ball of light and the other was a resplendent golden ball of light. Chapter 1153. The Sky Eagle used its 2 front claws to hold the ball of fire and the ball of golden light. It raised its head and let out an excited cry. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It was very excited, as if it was venting the excitement in its heart. It even spread its wide wings and flapped them crazily. A fierce wind blew, sweeping up the rubble that was piled up like a mountain and splashing it in all directions. Heaven and earth were covered in a vast expanse of gray. The rubble that was as dense as raindrops flew wildly in a 20-mile radius. The buildings that had not completely collapsed were completely smashed into smithereens by the hurricane and rubble. Many of the civilians and martial artists that had just escaped from the rubble were also minced into pieces by the hurricane. It was a horrible death. Ji Tianxing's chest surged with killing intent. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he unsheathed his sword without hesitation. Clang! He pulled out the broken sword and slashed at the sky eagle with all his might. Vast and mighty spiritual energy condensed into 100-meter-long blazing white sword light. With a destructive power, it struck the sky eagle that was still chirping excitedly. Bam! This sword struck the heavenly eagle's back, sending it flying out with a loud bang. Its feathers that were as hard as iron were neatly cut off by the sword light and floated in the air. A gruesome wound that was more than 100 feet long was left on its back. It went deep into the bone and black blood spurted out. Bam! The sky eagle flew nearly 10 miles away and crashed into the city wall in the distance. The tall and majestic city wall was smashed by it and collapsed for 10 miles, turning into ruins all over the ground. It rolled a dozen times on the ground before flapping its wings and flying up. It let out a furious roar. It swallowed the ball of fire and the ball of golden light and turned to look at Zhi Tianxing. Its eyes were filled with anger and resentment. Then, it flapped its wings and released thousands of blazing white light blades that rained down like a rain of arrows. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thousands of spiritual energy light blades instantly tore through the sky and crossed the distance of 10 miles to arrive in front of Zhi Tianxing. Zhi Tianxing could only control the 3 spiritual energy swords to form a sword net to protect himself. Spiritual energy sword net. The 3 soul-type magic swords danced as fast as the aurora, forming an impenetrable sword net that enveloped him. Thousands of soul light blades drowned Zhi Tianxing's figure and hit the net of swords, producing a series of muffled sounds. Ping ping ping. Zhi Tianxing was sent flying 1,000 meters away and crashed into the ruins, stirring up a cloud of dust. A moment later, when the thousands of divine soul light blades had dissipated, he withdrew the magic sword net. And at this time the sky eagle had already flown into the sky. It escaped from the southern wasteland city like a shooting star, and flew straight towards the southern wasteland great swamp. Damned beast, you've already achieved your goal and now you want to run away? Zhi Tianxing frowned, a cold light surging in his eyes. Of course he couldn't let the sky eagle go. He had to kill this strange beast and take back the 2 mysterious balls of holy light. But before chasing after the sky eagle, he opened the entrance to the world in the sword. He released the little black dragon Qianyu and the Jinshan King as well as more than 500 earth spirit warriors. Little black dragon Qianyu, Jinshan King, go help the divine general stop the beast tide and save the people in the city, he ordered in a dignified tone, then flew into the sky and chased after the sky eagle alone. The Jinshan King Qianyu, the little black dragon and several hundred earth spirit warriors appeared out of thin air in the ruins. They saw the ruins in the city and countless people and martial artists fighting against the demon beasts, and understood the situation. So they hurriedly helped Xiaohan kill the demon beasts and save the people in the city. The several hundred earth spirit warriors also used their innate talents to quickly clear the ruins in the city and save the people buried in the ruins. With their help, the pressure on Xiaohan was greatly reduced. The people and martial artists in the city gradually stabilized and began to counterattack in an orderly manner, resisting the invasion of the beast tide. Zhi Tianxing stepped on the soul magic sword and flew through the sky like an aurora, chasing after the sky eagle into the southern wilderness great marsh. Although the sky eagle was injured, it was still strong. It was originally a flying beast, so it was best at flying and its speed was unbelievably fast. Zhi Tianxing used all his strength on the soul magic sword to barely catch up to it and gradually closed the distance. About 15 minutes later, Zhi Tianxing chased for more than 2,000 kilometers into the great marsh before finally catching up to the sky eagle. It was already night and the curtain of night covered the world. The sky was covered with gray clouds and the ground was covered with a boundless forest. When Zhi Tianxing was still 2.5 kilometers away from the sky eagle, he brazenly attacked. Sky burning palm. He raised his magma red left arm and slapped out a giant flaming palm as large as a mountain. The giant flaming palm cut through the night sky, illuminating half of the sky, and hit the sky eagle with unbelievable speed. Boom! Amidst the deafening loud noise, the sky eagle was hit by the giant flaming palm. It fell from the sky with a miserable cry, smashing into the forest below. Its entire body ignited with crimson fire, actually igniting the vast forest and burning the gray ground into magma. But white light surged out of its body, erupting with divine soul power, dispersing the fire in a blink of an eye and suppressing the wound. Then it flapped its wings and flew into the sky, stopping and confronting Ji Tianxing. Despicable little bastard, you actually chased this emperor here, truly reckless. The sky eagle glared at Ji Tianxing with bloodshot eyes, and actually spoke in human language, emitting a low and hoarse voice. Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment, then said with a cold smile, "Indeed worthy of being a soul refinement realm beast, to actually be able to speak in human language. No wonder Xiao Han said that you're an old demon king that has lived for 1,000 years. Demon king?" A hint of contempt flashed across the sky eagle's eyes, and it said with a cold smile, "This emperor is the sky eagle demon emperor. I rule over 100,000 miles around Crimson Firmament Mountain, and I have hundreds of millions of demon beasts under my command." Ji Tianxing said expressionlessly, "I don't care if you're a demon king or a demon emperor. You actually dare to lead thousands of beasts to invade a human city instead of staying in the Great Swamp. I'll definitely kill you when I meet you." "But just you? Dream on," the sky eagle said in a disdainful tone. "This emperor just doesn't want to stay in human territory and return to Crimson Firmament Mountain as soon as possible to refine the Sacred Heart. Do you think that this emperor ran away because I'm afraid of a little worm like you?" Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and asked doubtfully, "Sacred Heart? The 2 balls of sacred light that you obtained from the sacred tower just now?" The sky eagle knew that it had misspoken, so it hurriedly shut up and did not mention this matter. It shouted with a murderous aura, "Little worm, you talk too much. This emperor will tear you to pieces right now." As its voice fell, a white light surged out of its body, and it actually condensed into 6 white sky eagle phantoms. Those were 6 divine soul phantoms, just like its 6 divine soul clones. They floated in the night sky behind it, staring at Ji Tianxing with malicious gazes. Sky Shadow Ultimate Kill. The sky eagle let out a low cry, spread its wings and released 9 giant white light blades, charging towards Ji Tianxing. The 6 divine soul phantoms also attacked from all directions, releasing dozens of giant divine soul blades. Chapter 1154. Although it was not known what the reason was, it made Sky Eagle endure all along in the southern desolate city. But now it was already in the southern desolate swamp. Naturally, it did not need to endure and immediately revealed its true form. It used all of its strength to kill, causing a radius of several dozen miles to be shrouded in white light, bright as day. The vast and boundless divine soul power, the indestructible divine soul blade, completely drowned Ji Tianxing's figure. He was like a small boat struggling bitterly in the sea of white light, likely to be drowned at any time. Sky Eagle's tyrannical strength was displayed without a doubt at this moment. Ji Tianxing was also fearless. 3 divine soul magic swords coiled around his body, condensing into a magic sword net. This was a consummate skill that he only mastered after reaching the 3rd level of the soul refinement realm. It was born out of the flowing light sword net that he used before. At that time he used sword energy to condense a sword net, which could block weapon attacks and siege attacks. And now he condensed a sword net with divine soul magic swords which could block any attack. Bang! 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 The divine soul blades that blotted out the sky and covered the earth fiercely slammed into the magic sword net, erupting with an earth-shattering bang. The bombardment of Sky Eagle and the 6 divine soul phantoms sent him flying backward, smashing into the vast forest on the ground with a loud bang. Following a loud explosion, a huge crater with a radius of several dozen miles was smashed out on the ground, splashing mud and wood chips all over the sky. The surrounding earth quaked and the mountains swayed. Several mountain peaks collapsed along with it, turning into ruins. Ji Tianxing's magic sword net was actually blasted apart. The 3 divine soul magic swords were all sent flying, slashing into the ground. He climbed out of the crater with a pale face and flew back into the sky once more. Sky Eagle occupied high in the sky, staring at him with a malicious gaze. The 6 divine soul phantoms also spread out, heavily surrounding him. Ji Tianxing panted for a moment, silently circulating his energy to regulate his breathing, suppressing the injuries of his internal organs. He stared at Sky Eagle with an icy gaze and said in a low voice, "Sky Eagle, if you only have this bit of ability, then your time of death has arrived." Sky Eagle laughed heartily and cried out in a cruel tone, Arrogant and ignorant worm, I can easily kill you. I will definitely tear you to pieces. As his voice fell, 6 mountain-like soul phantoms rushed towards Ji Tianxing from all directions, besieging him once again. Swish, swish. The 6 sky eagles waved their huge sharp claws, shooting out white light arrows and sharp blades that covered the sky, drowning Ji Tianxing's figure. The sky eagle flapped its wings and thousands of black feathers flew out of its body. It was infused with terrifying spiritual energy and charged towards Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing's expression was solemn. He spread out the golden wings on his back to protect himself. Wings of the golden rock. In the next moment, the 6 soul phantoms, the thousands of soul blades and the black feathers all hit him. Bang 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 bang. Along with an earth-shattering explosion, Ji Tianxing's golden wings trembled from the impact. The power of the wings was quickly exhausted and the light became extremely dim. In the blink of an eye, the golden wings retracted back into his body. And he was also hit by the black light formed by hundreds of black feathers. His body trembled and flew out. When he fell from the sky and smashed into the huge pit on the ground, his body was already stained with blood, looking rather wretched. Tianying laughed maniacally. Once again he controlled the 6 spiritual phantoms to descend from the sky and attack Ji Tianxing. Little reptile, you dare to fight against this emperor with just you? Prepare to die. The 6 soul phantoms stretched out their sharp claws and with a destructive impact, drowned Ji Tianxing's figure. And Ji Tianxing stood in the deep pit, expressionless, staring coldly at the sky eagle in the night sky. He ignored the 6 soul phantoms and used all his strength to brazenly wave the broken sword, thrusting out the most dazzling sword. Thrusting sword style. Swish. The broken sword stabbed out and a cold light appeared and rapidly disappeared. A dot of cold light illuminated the sky, piercing through the dark night, passing through 10 miles of space and instantly striking the sky eagle's body. Then that dot of cold light that condensed to the limit suddenly bloomed, exploding with a destructive power. Boom. Following a deafening explosion, the sky eagle's enormous body instantly exploded into pieces of flesh that filled the sky, scattering in all directions mixed with black blood. Among the feathers and pieces of flesh that blotted out the sky, there were also several blazing white fragments that fell from the night sky. That was precisely the sky eagle's soul crystal, commonly known as the soul crystal. Ji Tianxing's all-out sword not only destroyed the sky eagle's physical body, it also directly destroyed its soul crystal. The sky eagle died on the spot. Its 6 soul phantoms also suddenly dissipated the instant before they were about to hit Ji Tianxing. When the pieces of flesh fell to the ground, a series of plop-plop sounds rang out, piling up into a small black mountain. The world gradually returned to calm, and the violent spirit chi and soul power also gradually dissipated. Ji Tianxing stepped on the night sky, walking out of the deep pit step by step, flying to the mountain of body fragments. He searched through the pieces of the corpse for a while. Then he found 5 soul crystal fragments and held them in his right palm. A mysterious black hole appeared in his right palm, connecting to the broken sword. Burial of Heaven. This sky eagle is an expert at the 6th level of the soul refinement realm. Its soul crystal fragments should be of great benefit to you, right? As his voice fell, a few soul crystal fragments passed through the black hole and entered the broken sword, quickly being devoured by the Burial of Heaven. Then he rummaged through the body fragments for a while before finding the 2 balls of light that the sky eagle had devoured. A ball of crimson fire and a ball of bright golden light, both containing mysterious and majestic power. Ji Tianxing held a ball of holy light in each hand, only to feel as if he was holding 2 mountains incomparably heavy. These 2 balls of holy light were like 2 suns, violent and scorching, as if they could explode at any time, destroying the world. I really didn't expect such a treasure to be hidden in the small southern wasteland city. He was a little emotional in his heart, lowering his head to observe the 2 balls of holy light. He saw that a fist-sized red heart was wrapped in the crimson fire, and it seemed to still be beating. In the bright golden light, a golden heart was also wrapped. Its appearance was the same as the crimson heart, but its size was a little smaller. After Ji Tianxing used his soul power to investigate, he found that these were 2 mysterious gems, not real hearts. Of course, he guessed that these might be gems transformed from hearts. He just couldn't understand why the sky eagle called these 2 gems saint hearts. After pondering for a moment, he put the 2 saint hearts into the space ring, leaped into the night sky and returned to Southern Wasteland City. Not long after, when he returned to Southern Wasteland City, he saw that the city was bustling with noise and excitement. Fires were lit everywhere in the city, and countless city guards and martial artists were busy helping the injured or maintaining order. Chapter 1155. Ji Tianxing flew over the Southern Wasteland City and observed the situation in the city. The beast tide had already ended. Tens of thousands of demon beasts had just escaped from the Southern Wasteland City. Broken walls were everywhere in the city. The ground was cracked, the houses collapsed, and the streets were twisted and broken. Corpses of demon beasts could be seen everywhere on the ground. The mud and bricks were all stained with blood. Of course, many corpses of civilians were also found by the warriors of the Earth Spirit clan from the ruins and were placed on the ground in an orderly manner. All in all, the Southern Wasteland City under the night sky was still filled with panic and grief after the disaster. But the civilians had already experienced many similar situations, so their reactions were still calm and not panicked. The Southern Wasteland City master, several commanders, and the leaders of wealthy families were all trying their best to endure their injuries and command the city guards and civilians to carry out the rescue. Zhou Xian and the Golden Mountain King, with the help of the warriors of the Earth Spirit clan, performed secret arts to repair the ground, clean up the ruins and rebuild the houses. This was the talent and strength of the Earth Spirit clan. The speed of rebuilding houses was very fast. After just 2 hours, most of the ground and streets in the city had been restored to their original state. Next, the warriors of the Earth Spirit clan had to help the civilians rebuild their houses, which would take a whole night. The aftermath of the disaster in the city was carried out in an orderly manner. The civilians also calmed down and waited for the reconstruction to be completed. Ji Tianxing and Zhou Xian followed the Southern Wasteland City Master and the others into the City Master's mansion. The Southern Wasteland City Master, several commanders and family leaders were all very respectful to Ji Tianxing and Zhou Xian. When the two of them sat down in the main hall, everyone walked in front of them and respectfully bowed, expressing their gratitude. "Thank you for saving the Southern Wasteland City. On behalf of the millions of civilians in the Southern Wasteland City, we express our heartfelt gratitude to the 2 seniors for their help. The Southern Wasteland City will never forget the 2 seniors' great kindness." Zhou Xian and Ji Tianxing slightly nodded and raised their hands to signal the others to be excused. Everyone chatted for a while before they started to talk about the important matters. After asking, the Southern Wasteland City Master and the others knew that Zhou Xian and Ji Tianxing were Donglin Divine General and Tianqin Territory Lord. With their status, it was very difficult for them to come into contact with such lofty figures. Naturally, they were filled with excitement and trepidation, afraid that they would neglect the 2 of them. They didn't even dare to sit down. They all stood respectfully in the hall and spoke carefully. Fortunately, Ji Tianxing and Zhou Xian were more easygoing and did not put on the airs of a big shot. The 2 of them inquired about the casualty situation in the Southern Wasteland City and learned that the situation wasn't that bad. It was much lighter than the previous beast tide outbreaks. Speaking of the beast tide, Ji Tianxing conveniently asked the Southern Wasteland City Lord if he knew the reason for the beast tide outbreak. The Southern Wasteland City Master hesitated for a moment, then said with a solemn expression, "Lord Ji, to be honest, I'm not very clear about the cause of the beast tide outbreak. However, I have heard that since the ancient times thousands of years ago, beast tides have occurred from time to time. At that time, the Southern Wasteland City was not as big as it was today, nor was it as prosperous as it was now. According to the historical records of the Southern Wasteland City, in the ancient times, every beast tide outbreak would bring a huge disaster to the Southern Wasteland City. The casualties and losses were very heavy. However, no matter what, the people of the Southern Wasteland City would not leave. They would rebuild their homes and continue to reproduce. The reason is rumored to be related to the sacred tower in the city." Hearing the Southern Wasteland City Lord mention the sacred tower, Ji Tianxing took the opportunity to ask, "Then do you know the origin and secret of the sacred tower? Why would it cause a beast tide outbreak?" The Southern Wasteland City Lord smiled embarrassedly and said with a stuttering voice, "Lord Ji, I don't know the real reason. I've only heard some legends about the sacred tower. However, those are all illusory myths. I don't dare to tell you lest you misunderstand." 2 years ago, Ji Tianxing was indeed skeptical about the myths and legends of the Tianxian continent. However, after the incident with the goddess of Yaoguang, he already believed most of them. He even took the initiative to inquire about those myths and legends to understand the ancient past. He waved his hand and said, "Don't be nervous. I'm very interested in these ancient myths and legends. You can tell me directly, I won't blame you." Finally, the southern wasteland city lord felt relieved. He immediately said, "Since Lord Ji has agreed, then I won't hide it anymore." According to the legends, in the ancient times, an earth-shattering war of the gods occurred that involved the entire Tianxian continent. It was known as the War of the Gods. Before the War of the Gods, the southern wasteland swamp was a vast expanse of mountains and plains. It was a place with abundant resources, a place that was like spring all year round and a picturesque scenery. It was a peaceful paradise. Many races lived there and established many kingdoms. They coexisted in harmony with each other. There was even a kingdom of demonic beasts that was ruled by the legendary phoenix divine bird. According to the legends, for the phoenix divine bird, the male is the fire phoenix and the female is the dragon phoenix. The king of the demonic beast kingdom was the fire phoenix, and the dragon phoenix was the queen. They loved each other deeply and loved peace. They lived on a sacred tree of the parasol tree, protecting millions of miles of territory and the people of each race. Although the story told by the southern wasteland city lord sounded absurd and illusory, but Ji Tianxing listened attentively and even nodded slightly to encourage him to continue. After the southern wasteland city lord got the approval, he gathered his courage and continued, but the good times didn't last long. After the War of the Gods broke out, it spread to the southern wasteland swamp. All the tribes and kingdoms were affected by the flames of war. The people had no way to make a living. Many tribal kings and kings begged the phoenix divine bird to stop the War of the Gods and protect the peace of the land. It was said that the dragon phoenix was pregnant at that time and was peacefully giving birth to the baby phoenix. The phoenix divine bird considered for a long time. In order to protect the people of each race and its own kingdom, it finally decided to go to war and stop the invasion of the evil gods. The War of the Gods lasted for several months. The aftermath of the War of the Gods was like a world-ending calamity that descended upon the southern wasteland swamp. Millions of miles of mountains and plains were turned into sinkholes, abysses and swamps. Countless tribes and kingdoms and millions of creatures perished in the flames of war. The dragon phoenix was worried about her husband's safety. Without waiting for the birth of the baby phoenix, she rushed to the ninth heaven while pregnant to find the phoenix divine bird. When she found her husband, the phoenix divine bird was besieged by many evil gods. He was seriously injured and on the verge of death. So, the dragon phoenix and the phoenix divine bird fought side by side with the evil gods. No one knew how long they had been fighting and what they had experienced. In the end, several evil gods were killed by the phoenix couple. They also died in battle in the ninth heaven. Their souls scattered and their divine bodies turned into ashes. Chapter 1156. That parasol sacred tree is said to be the seed of an ancient sacred tree. Even after 10,000 years it will not wither. However, the aftermath of the Battle of the Gods destroyed the entire southern wasteland swamp and burned down the parasol sacred tree. There was also a saying that after the phoenix couple died, the parasol sacred tree could not survive on its own. It withered and died, turning into black ashes. All in all, this sad legend was passed down from then on. In order to thank and commemorate the phoenix couple, the later generations have been extolling their legend. Many years after the Battle of the Gods, the continent returned to peace, and the various races rested. By chance, when a middle-aged couple was exploring the ruins of the southern wasteland swamp, they coincidentally found two gems. Those were two heart-shaped gems. Legend has it that they were transformed from the phoenix couple's sacred heart. The couple experienced life and death dangers in the southern wasteland swamp and finally escaped from it. They stopped here and lived in seclusion. At that time this was just a small village. After the middle-aged couple learned about the legend of the phoenix, they built a pagoda here and worshipped the two sacred hearts. Since then, more and more people gathered here, taking root here and multiplying. After hundreds of years, the middle-aged couple was long gone. However, the pagoda and sacred heart remained forever. The once small village had developed into the bustling southern wasteland city. It became a place that adventurers had to pass through to enter the southern wasteland swamp. Adventurers from all over the world, after learning about the legend of the phoenix, would go to the sacred tower to worship and pray for the phoenix to bless them so that they could enter and exit the southern wasteland swamp smoothly. When the southern wasteland city lord spoke until here, he paused for a moment and his face revealed a touch of anger. Originally this was a good thing. People of all races thanked and worshipped the phoenix, commemorating it forever. However, there were always some despicable people with evil intentions, vainly trying to seize the legendary phoenix sacred heart. Therefore, 3,000 years ago there were several fights in the sacred tower, which led to the sacred tower almost being destroyed. After those few incidents, the southern wasteland city lord at that time ordered the sacred tower's entrance to be closed forever. Everyone could only watch and worship outside the tower and could not enter the tower to worship. Later on, at an unknown time, the demonic beasts in the southern wasteland Great Lake would rush out of the Great Lake every few years and madly attack the southern wasteland city. The demonic beasts couldn't speak human language, so no one knew why they went crazy and why they attacked the southern wasteland city. However, the previous city lords all speculated that the reason why the demonic beasts attacked the southern wasteland city was probably related to the divine bird phoenix's sacred heart. Perhaps those demonic beasts wanted to seize the saint's heart to increase their own strength. Or perhaps they saw the phoenix as their ancestor and wanted to take back their ancestor's inheritance. Furthermore, in the previous beast hordes, the strongest beast leader was only at Sky Origin stage. I don't know why, but a demon emperor at the soul refinement stage actually appeared in this beast tide. The southern wasteland city lord had finally finished his story, and his tone was somewhat complicated and emotional. After listening, Ji Tianxing finally understood the whole story. Although he knew that the southern wasteland city lord's story was not complete, there were still some loopholes and parts that could not withstand scrutiny. But after all, this was a myth and legend passed down after the Great War of the Gods. No one had personally experienced it and it was all passed down by word of mouth. How could there be no omissions and flaws? After a moment of silence, he nodded and said to the southern wasteland city lord, "This myth is indeed emotional. The divine bird phoenix is indeed worthy of being a sacred beast. It has the sacred heart to help the world and to love all races. The story you just told may not be complete and true, but it still has a high degree of credibility. Moreover, it has been thousands of years, no one can find out the truth, so there's no need to pursue anything further." Xiao Han's belief in this myth was obviously not as high as Ji Tianxing's. He nodded slightly and said with a solemn expression, "These myths, everyone should just listen to them. There's no need to delve deeper." The southern wasteland city lord could only cup his hands in obeisance and no longer say anything. Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a while before he made up his mind and said to the southern wasteland city lord, "Previously, when the heavenly eagle destroyed the holy tower, I didn't see any sacred heart. I chased it into the great swamp and after killing it I didn't find anything either. If you really think there's a sacred heart in the holy tower, there's no harm in sending people to look for it in the ruins." Hearing him say this, Xiao Han and the southern wasteland city lord all revealed shocked expressions and exclaimed in disbelief. "What? Young Master Ji, you actually killed that heavenly eagle? That was an expert at the 6th level of the spirit refining realm. Lord Ji can actually kill the heavenly eagle? You really are the #1 genius of our race, a peerless genius. Lord Ji has such extraordinary strength at such a young age. In the future you will definitely be a peerless hero or even a supreme being." Everyone was shocked from the bottom of their hearts and praised Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said a few modest words. He looked at the southern wasteland city lord with a solemn expression and said in a solemn tone, "Facts have proven that the holy tower has experienced thousands of years and is no longer the holy tower of the past. Legend has it that the sacred heart of the phoenix that was worshipped in the holy tower may have disappeared many years ago, or it may have never existed. After this, I feel that you don't need to rebuild the holy tower anymore. That ancient mythical story was rarely mentioned and almost no one went to worship it anymore. On the contrary, the demon beasts of the southern wasteland Great Lake have always been thinking about the legendary sacred heart of the phoenix and constantly attacking the southern wasteland city. This is not a good thing." Hearing him say this, the southern wasteland city lord nodded in agreement. "That's right, Lord Ji is right. This subordinate will not rebuild the holy tower. That legend is only a legend and will eventually disappear with the passage of time. But the people of our southern wasteland city have always been living in the shadow of the demon beast tide, which is a real harm. The holy tower has been destroyed and that legend will also be forgotten. This subordinate believes that the demon beasts of the southern wasteland Great Lake will not attack the southern wasteland city in the future. This matter was settled. The southern wasteland city lord sent people to prepare a banquet to warmly entertain Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han to express the gratitude of the people of the city. But Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han refused. The two of them did not care about this kind of false reputation. Moreover, the city was in a mess. The people had not settled down and the work to clean up the aftermath had not been completed. The two of them only asked for 2 secret rooms and each went to meditate and rest. After a night of meditation, the two of them recovered their magic power and became full of energy again. The next morning, the Golden Mountain King and hundreds of warriors of the Earth Spirit race under his command also completed the reconstruction of the southern wasteland city and returned to the Sword World to rest. The southern wasteland city that was still devastated last night was restored to its original state in the morning, as if nothing had happened. Chapter 1157. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han were rushing through the southern wasteland swamp at lightning speed. The beast tide in the southern wasteland city was just a small interlude, so Xiao Han didn't take it to heart. While he was on his way, he was thinking about the Shao clan's Holy Fire Festival. Ji Tianxing was also communicating with the little black dragon and Qianyu. Qianyu was puzzled and asked, "Old Ji, you told the southern wasteland city lord that you didn't see the phoenix sacred heart last night. Why did you lie? This isn't your style." The little black dragon also muttered, "Yeah, old Ji didn't even blink when he lied. I really can't believe it." Ji Tianxing's tone was somewhat emotional. He said faintly, "If I say that I did this for the good of the southern wasteland city, you might think I'm a hypocrite, but this is indeed half the reason. Without the phoenix sacred heart and the sacred tower, the beast tide wouldn't have broken out in the southern wasteland swamp, and the southern wasteland city wouldn't have to suffer a disaster every 1 or 2 years. Most importantly, the legend of the phoenixes is related to the Great War of the Gods. I know the cause and origin of that war is related to the ancestor demon god. The people of the southern wasteland city can only enshrine the phoenix sacred heart in the sacred tower and spread the legend of the phoenixes, silently paying tribute to them. However, this was useless and meaningless. What happened back then is about to happen again. The ancestor demon god is likely to revive and the demon army will sweep the world again. So, I'd rather lie and take the phoenix sacred heart away and give it to the two of you. I hope that you can refine the phoenix sacred heart and quickly increase your strength. In the future, you can help me resist the demon army, protect the people of the human race and deal with the demon emperor and the ancestor demon god. You can consider it as inheriting the will of the phoenixes and completing their unfinished mission and wish." The little black dragon and Qianyu were silent for a moment, then muttered to themselves, "Inheriting the will? This is indeed much better than paying tribute to them. Old Ji, I agree with your way of doing things. Instead of letting the phoenix sacred heart lie in the sacred tower, why not let us inherit it and avenge the phoenixes?" Ji Tianxing said solemnly, "It's good that you understand my intentions. Refine the 2 sacred phoenix hearts as soon as possible and strive to reach the spirit refinement realm as soon as possible. Remember, don't get it wrong. Little black dragon will refine the fire phoenix's heart, and Qianyu will refine the dragon phoenix's heart." Hearing his words, Qianyu hesitated for a moment, then said with a strange tone, "Old Ji, the legendary phoenix couple, they are incomparably loving and will not change even in death. Say, after Dumb Dragon and I refine the phoenix sacred heart, will we become, like the phoenix couple, falling in love with each other?" Ji Tianxing was stunned. He asked in a strange tone, "Qianyu, how do you want me to answer this question? You and the little black dragon have known each other for so many years and we are best friends. The two of you should love each other and take care of each other." "I won't." Qianyu immediately rejected the idea. She muttered unhappily, "I'm a heavenly fox. Dumb Dragon is a black dragon. We're of different races. How can we love each other? Besides, I've always treated the little black dragon as a brother, so how could I fall in love with it? Stark and dull, too boring. It's not my type at all." Ji Tianxing's face darkened as he said snappily, "What brother? You're a girl and the little black dragon is a boy. As long as you're of different genders, it's fine. Why do you care so much? Besides, the little black dragon is so honest and considerate. If he can endure your unruly behavior, you should be content." The little black dragon, who had been silent this entire time, hurriedly nodded. "And old Zhou Xian, you don't worry. When I become stronger, I will protect all of you with my life." Qianyu stuck her tongue out at it. "Ha! Who needs your protection? I don't care, humph." After saying that, it held the dragon phoenix sacred heart, found a mountain peak in the sword world with abundant spiritual energy, and went into seclusion to refine. The little black dragon was also in the secret chamber of the peaceful Earth City, focusing on refining the sacred fire phoenix heart. Ji Tianxing smiled silently. He didn't say anything more and continued on his way. Unknowingly, 5 days passed. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han flew for 5 days and 5 nights in the southern wasteland Great Marsh. They crossed the outer mountain ranges and forests, and finally entered the central region of the Great Marsh. The terrain in front of them became lower and lower. Mountain ranges rarely appeared. The ground was filled with dark brown swamps and dark green forests. This was the central region of the southern wasteland Great Marsh, and also the most dangerous region. The cave dwellings and ruins of legendary experts were mostly hidden in this region with a radius of several 100,000 miles. Of course, the Shao clan was also in this region. At this time, the two of them were flying in the air above a swamp with a radius of nearly 10,000 miles. The dark brown swamp was filled with black mud. Layers of rotten leaves, brown branches, and other debris were piled up on top of it. Many colorful wildflowers and grass grew on the surface of the muddy swamp, attracting many colorful insects. Some strange-looking, gifted venomous snakes and insects were also hiding in the swamp, silently moving through the swamp. In the air above the swamp, there was a faintly discernible gray fog that contained terrifying poisonous gas. Fortunately, Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han were both in the soul-refining realm. With the protection of their divine soul, they could resist the corrosion of the miasma and poisonous fog. Moreover, the two of them were flying high in the sky and didn't land in the swamp. There wouldn't be any trouble or danger. While flying forward, Xiao Han said to Ji Tianxing, "Young Master Ji, this is the central region of the Great Marsh. We will reach the Shao clan after flying for another day. This area with a radius of 200,000 miles is the legendary soul-devouring swamp. It is one of the most dangerous regions in the Great Marsh. To the adventurers of the outside world, this is a death zone. To the disciples of the Shao clan, if they want to leave the Shao clan and enter the flourishing central state, this swamp is also the most dangerous barrier and test. When I left the Shao clan that year when I was a fledgling, I almost lost my life in this soul-devouring swamp." When Xiao Han talked about the past, his face was full of sorrow and sorrow. Ji Tianxing listened quietly and occasionally responded. The two of them chatted as they walked, so they didn't feel lonely. At this time, in the sky 100 miles ahead, there was a loud rumbling sound. A dazzling light of true origin lit up the dusky sky. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han looked in the direction of the sound and saw a dark green forest in the dark brown swamp. It was a small mound that protruded out of the swamp. It was only 10 miles in radius. There were all kinds of shrubs and small trees growing on it. Chapter 1158. When Ji Tianxing heard the loud noises in the sky, he thought that demonic beasts were fighting. After all, he had seen this kind of thing every day during his journey in the great swamp of the southern wasteland. When he looked at the sky above the mound, he found that there were 2 demonic beasts as huge as palaces attacking a 1,000-meter-long flood dragon. The 2 giant beasts were 100 meters long and looked like cheetahs, but their bodies were grayish-white and covered in layers of cloud patterns. They had 4 broad wings and long fluffy tails, like those of a grayish-white squirrel. They waved their gigantic front claws and unleashed an overwhelming amount of 5-colored spiritual light, attacking the dark gray flood dragon from both sides. The flood dragon kept roaring angrily and spewing out black water pillars as well as ice blades and frost swords, to fight against the 2 giant beasts. The attacks of the 2 sides, the light blades and the shockwaves, kept colliding with each other, creating loud rumbling noises. The colorful light covered the sky for dozens of kilometers and created violent shock waves. The entire mound shook violently and huge pits appeared on the ground, splashing mud and wood chips all over the sky. The swamp around the mound was also dented by the shock waves and mud splashed everywhere. The area within a radius of 30 kilometers was chaotic and dirty, making it impossible for people to get close. Ji Tianqing stared at the two giant demonic beasts, carefully sizing them up. Xiao Han raised his eyebrows and said to him through sound transmission, "Those are cloud-spotted beasts, high-rank demonic beasts with powerful bloodlines. Adult cloud-spotted beasts have the strength of the soul-refining realm." Looking at the size and appearance of the two cloud-spotted beasts, they are obviously adults, and their strength is comparable to the second or third level of the soul-refining realm. But the flood dragon fighting with the cloud-spotted beast seems a little strange. Hearing him say so, Ji Tianqing glanced at the two cloud-spotted beasts, and then his eyes fell on the dark gray flood dragon. The flood dragon was 1,000 meters long, covered in dark gray scales with a pair of dark green eyes and 4 thick and huge claws, which contained the strength to break mountains. Without a doubt this was an azure dragon. Ji Tianqing sized it up and immediately frowned, revealing a puzzled expression. Azure dragon? This azure dragon's appearance and aura are somewhat familiar. Where have I seen it before? He frowned and pondered for a while. Suddenly he recalled that he had seen an azure dragon in the evil dragon pool in the southern desolation's great swamp a year ago. Yes, that's it. But why did it leave the evil dragon pool and appear here? Ji Tianqing instantly confirmed that this azure dragon was the one in the evil dragon pond. Could it be that fool's wish has been fulfilled? This thought flashed through his mind and his eyes shone brightly as he looked around. As expected, he soon saw 2 tiny figures on the battlefield in the sky. They were 2 tall and sturdy human martial artists dressed in golden armor. They were currently on the left and right of the azure dragon, attacking the 2 cloud-spotted beasts with all their might. Both of them had long golden hair, wore armor and capes and held broadswords in their hands. Both of them had not reached the soul-tempering realm and were only in the sky origin realm. They were no match for the cloud-spotted beasts at all. Even if they used all their secret skills to attack the 2 cloud-spotted beasts with all their might, it was useless. They could not hurt the beasts at all. On the contrary, the shockwaves from the battle between the cloud-spotted beasts and the azure dragon made the 2 of them retreat. They were covered in blood and were severely injured. The battle was not going well. The outcome of the battle was about to be decided. The cloud-spotted beast's cultivation level was about the same as the azure dragon's, and they had the advantage in numbers. Of course, they could defeat the azure dragon. Not only did the azure dragon have to fend off the 2 cloud-spotted beasts, but it also had to protect the 2 men in golden armor. The situation was getting more and more dangerous. The 2 men in golden armor were covered in blood. They were at the end of their rope and were badly injured. However, they did not want to retreat. They stubbornly held on and helped the azure dragon fend off the attacks from the cloud-spotted beasts. The attacks from the cloud-spotted beasts were getting fiercer and fiercer. They all opened their bloody mouths and roared into the sky, causing the wind and clouds within 100 miles to gather into a hurricane. Whoosh, whoosh. 2,000-meter-tall tornadoes wrapped in pale white divine soul blades swept toward the 2 men in golden armor with unparalleled power. The 2 men immediately looked desperate. They desperately stimulated their potential. Dazzling golden light shone from their bodies as they turned around and fled into the distance. Unfortunately, the tornadoes were too powerful. They released a terrifying devouring power that covered an area of 30 miles. The 2 men in golden armor seemed to have fallen into a swamp. They ran slower and slower. In the end, they were swallowed back into the tornadoes. The 2 men in golden armor were about to be swallowed by the tornadoes. What awaited them was definitely being shredded to pieces by the tornadoes and dying on the spot. The azure dragon roared anxiously and immediately flew over to rescue the 2 men in golden armor. However, the 2 cloud-spotted beasts blocked it and attacked it from both sides, sending it flying back. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing arrived above the mound and flew into the battlefield with a whoosh. When he got closer, he saw that the 2 men in golden armor were outsiders. They were the Golden Lion clan members he had seen before. One of them was a middle-aged man, the other a young man. The tall and burly young man was covered in wounds. His face was covered in blood and his hair was disheveled. He was in a sorry state. Even so, he immediately recognized him. He was the prince of the Golden Lion clan, Zhou Xian. It really is that silly boy. This thought flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind. His eyes revealed a trace of relief. He did not hesitate to cast a spell and drew the cold, pitch-black broken sword. "Draw your sword." Whoosh. The divine sword was unsheathed. Cold light flashed. 200-meter-long white sword lights formed by divine souls instantly cut through the turbid sky and slashed at the two tornadoes. At this moment Zhou Xian and the middle-aged man were sucked into the tornadoes. They could not resist the tornadoes at all. The two closed their eyes in despair, waiting for their bodies to be crushed and their bones to be crushed. They waited for death to descend. However, with two earth-shattering booms, the two tornadoes collapsed and dissipated in the blink of an eye. The devouring power that enveloped heaven and earth dissipated. Zhou Xian and the middle-aged man fell from the sky and smashed into the swamp below. The two of them were stunned. When they came to their senses, they opened their eyes in disbelief. In the next moment, the two of them saw a scene that they would never forget. Xianxia stepped into the sky, holding the broken sword majestically. He casually thrust it forward in a carefree manner. Whoosh! A cold light suddenly appeared and illuminated the sky. A cold light that had been condensed to the limit shot out from the broken sword. It instantly pierced through the sky and hit a cloud-spotted beast. Chapter 1159. The cloud-spotted beast, which had been aggressive and murderous just a moment ago, was actually unable to withstand the might of Xianxia's sword. Just how strong was its defense and strength with its 100-meter-long body? However, in the face of Xianxia's broken sword, it was as fragile as a piece of paper. Even its soul crystal was shattered by the power of this sword. It was shattered into pieces and scattered into the sky along with its flesh and blood. Zhou Xian and the middle-aged man were stunned. Song Long and the other cloud-spotted beast were also dumbfounded. Everyone momentarily forgot about attacking and killing as they stared at Xianxia, their eyes filled with shock and awe. Only Xiao Han was able to maintain his composure. He was not too surprised by this. After all, he had already witnessed Xianxia's terrifying power. No matter what kind of miracle Xianxia could create, he would feel that it was only natural. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xianxia waved his hand and unleashed a gigantic golden palm that blotted out the sky, dragging Zhou Xian and the middle-aged man back. The cloud-spotted beast finally came to its senses. It immediately abandoned Song Long and pounced toward Xianxia with a roar. Roar! It was enraged. It raised its head and roared into the sky. White light surged from its body as it unleashed 3,000-meter-long pillars of divine sense light toward Xianxia. Vast divine power condensed into a scorching white pillar of light. It contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. It was enough to destroy everything within a 25-kilometer radius. The surrounding sky was illuminated. Violent gale-force winds spread, creating a huge vortex in the quagmire around the mound. This was the cloud-spotted beast's most powerful attack. In order to kill Xianxia and avenge its companions, it had unleashed all of its power. Xianxia did not back down. He also unleashed all of his power. He focused all of his essence, energy, and spirit to unleash the most powerful sword strike of his life. Heaven-splitting sword. This was the most powerful sword strike of the combination of essence, energy, and spirit, man and sword and heavenly sword. The scorching white sword projection that was 1,000 meters long slashed through the sky with the power to destroy everything and struck one of the pillars of divine sense light. Boom! The pillar of spiritual energy collapsed on the spot, shattering into countless fragments that scattered in all directions. The power of the sword light did not decrease in the slightest, and it struck the cloud-spotted beast right in the middle of its head. Boom! With a muffled sound, the cloud-spotted beast's head was sliced open by the sword light. A huge gully appeared from its head to its back and then to its tail. Its 100-meter-long body was split into two halves from the middle by a single slash. Dark red blood gushed out like a torrential flood, sprinkling down from the sky into the swamp. The two halves of the cloud-mottled beast's corpse fell from the sky and smashed into the desolated mound. After the corpse fell to the ground, it twitched a few times before it finally calmed down and stopped moving. This cloud-spotted beast followed in its companion's footsteps and was instantly killed by Xianxia's sword. Not only did its physical body die, even its soul crystal was split into several pieces and shattered on the spot. The battle ended with the death of the two cloud-spotted beasts. Song Long, Zhou Xian, and the middle-aged blonde man all stared at this scene with their mouths agape. They did not recover from their shock for a long time. At the same time, a black airship was hiding in the swamp 20 miles away from the mound. This airship was not big, only half a meter long. It was completely black and had an exquisite and beautiful appearance. However, it was a soul-level Dharma treasure. There was a whole new world inside it, and it had a spacious Dharma treasure space. The black airship hid in the mud of the swamp. It did not light up, nor did it emit any spiritual chi waves. It was very difficult to discover it. Inside the flying boat, there was a young man and woman who were watching the situation outside attentively. The young man and woman were both in their early 20s. Their clothes were very exquisite, and their attire was very elegant and noble. The young man was tall and handsome. He wore a long blue robe embroidered with the pattern of a divine bird. The woman was also tall and beautiful. She wore a long yellow dress and had long hair that reached her shoulders. She wore a jade white pearl necklace around her neck. Her facial features were very delicate. Her clear eyes were like autumn water, and her long eyelashes were like two small fans. At this moment her small cherry mouth opened silently. Her beautiful face was filled with shock, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. After being stunned for a while, she took a deep breath and praised sincerely, "Oh my God, where did that young man come from? He only used 2 swords and killed 2 cloud-spotted beasts? He looks about the same age as me. Why is his strength so terrifying? He has reached the soul-tempering realm. In the history of our Xiao clan, there has never been such a valiant peerless genius, right?" The young man in the blue robe standing beside her also recovered from his shock. His face was still filled with amazement. He nodded in agreement and exclaimed in disbelief, "He is indeed too powerful. If we did not sneak out secretly, how could we see such a shocking genius? Sister Ling, that guy looks younger than me, but he has the strength of the soul-tempering realm. This is simply a miracle. Even if we can't get the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beasts, we can see the young genius outside. This trip was not in vain." The delicate girl called Ling frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, she suddenly revealed a sly smile. "Xiaochen, it is too early for you to say that. I think we might have a chance." That young genius passed by and saw the cloud-spotted beasts attacking the 2 golden-haired men. That was why he came to their rescue. A proud genius like him would definitely disdain to collect the spoils of war, let alone the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beasts, right? I dare to bet that the genius will not take another look at the cloud-spotted beasts' bodies. He will most likely leave gracefully and leave us with an admirable back view." As Ling spoke, her clear eyes shone brightly. Her eyes were filled with worship and admiration. The young man called Xiaochen looked at Ling joyful expression and felt a little sour in his heart. However, he still nodded in agreement and said, "Sister Ling is still the smart one. It will be the Holy Fire Festival in a few days. We have to get the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beasts and refine that magic treasure as soon as possible. Only then will we have full confidence to pass the test and obtain the top 2 spots to obtain the opportunity to leave the Xiao clan." Ling pouted and said with a resentful tone, "I am already sick of staying in the Xiao clan. I am almost bored to death from being trapped in that small world. Anyway, no matter what, I will obtain the top 2 spots in the test and strive to leave the Xiao clan." Chapter 1160. While they were secretly discussing, Ji Tianxing and the others were also talking in the air above the mound in the distance. Zhou Xian brought the middle-aged man and flew to Ji Tianxing. He opened his arms excitedly and gave Ji Tianxing a bear hug. He was so excited that he spoke incoherently. "Brother Tianxing. Big brother. I finally see you again. Ma. That's great. This is such a pleasant surprise. I never thought that I would meet you here. You even saved me." Zhou Xian didn't care about his injuries. He didn't even wipe the blood off his face. Then he pulled the middle-aged man beside him and said to Ji Tianxing, "Jingu, this is young Master Ji, the man I told you about before. He is a genius whose name shakes the whole continent." Jingu quickly wiped the blood off his face with his sleeve and bowed respectfully. He said to Ji Tianxing, "Greetings, young Master Ji. I am Jingu, the commander of the Golden Lion Clan's Imperial Guards. I am responsible for protecting the prince. I am very grateful to young Master Ji for saving my life." After Jin Gu bowed, Shi Zhongjian excitedly waved at Song Long and shouted, "Brother Long, come and see who this is." Song Long was meditating. Hearing Ji Tianqing's call, he quickly flew over and looked at Ji Tianqing closely. Seeing Ji Tianqing's appearance, Song Long raised his eyebrows and said in a complicated tone, "It's you?" Obviously, Song Long had recognized Ji Tianqing. He was the young man who went through the evil dragon swamp a year ago. Ji Tianqing nodded to Song Long and looked at Shi Zhongjian. He smiled and said, "Lion, it seems that your wish has been fulfilled." Shi Zhongjian patted his chest proudly and said with a hearty laugh, "Of course. I told you that year that I would make Brother Long acknowledge me. Since I left the southern wasteland and returned to the sect, I have been cultivating hard. Later I went to the evil dragon pond with my master and several elders. It took me a lot of effort to persuade Brother Long to go back to the sect with me." Ji Tianqing listened to Yi Zhao's story. He looked at Yi Zhao up and down and said, "Not bad. You have changed a lot in the past year. You have improved a lot. You are now at the 6th level of the Sky Origin stage." Shi Zhongjian's bodyguard, Jin Gu, was also at the 7th level of Sky Origin stage. In the Tianxian land, these two could be considered as famous elite warriors. But in the depths of the southern desolation swamp, this little bit of strength was utterly insufficient, and he might even lose his life if he encountered two cloud-streak beasts. Ji Tianqing looked at Shi Zhongjian and asked doubtfully, "You've already achieved your wish by getting the blue dragon to follow you. Why did you come to the depths of the lake and even offend the cloud-mottled beast?" Shi Zhongjian awkwardly scratched his head and explained, "Big brother Tianqing, you know that a year ago when I came to the southern wasteland Great Marsh, I had 3 objectives to explore. After the blue dragon followed me, I thought that with its protection I would be more confident. So, I broke into this place to look for a cave dwelling of an ancient elite warrior. I didn't expect that this place was not a cave dwelling, but a nest of demonic beasts. There are 2 cloud-streak beasts living here." Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh. He said earnestly, "You made a big mistake and you almost lost your life. There are very few elite warriors in the world, and a cave dwelling or a ruin from the ancient era is even rarer. How could it be so easy to find it? Usually the information and secrets that are easily obtained are mostly false. You can't be so reckless in the future." Shi Zhongjian lowered his head and humbly accepted his criticism. He nodded and said, "Big brother Tianqing, you are right. I won't be so impulsive in the future." Xiao Han stood aside. Seeing that Ji Tianqing and Shi Zhongjian were chatting happily, he walked over. "Looks like you guys seem to have known each other for a long time and coincidentally met here today?" Shi Zhongjian hurriedly nodded and said with a respectful attitude, "Junior Shi Zhongjian greets the senior." "I haven't asked senior, you are?" Although he didn't know Xiao Han, he saw that Xiao Han was traveling with Ji Tianqing. His attitude towards Xiao Han was very respectful and courteous. Xiao Han saw this point and couldn't help becoming more and more curious about Ji Tianqing. After all, Shi Zhongjian was obviously not an ordinary person. To be able to have the blue dragon as a mount and companion, he definitely had a powerful background. Such a noble young genius was actually abnormally worshipping and getting close to Ji Tianqing. How could Xiao Han not be shocked and puzzled? He waved his hand at Shi Zhongjian and said with a light smile, "This seat is just a common person in the world. My name and whatnot don't need to care about it." Shi Zhongjian understood that he was unwilling to reveal his identity, so he didn't ask. After waiting for Shi Zhongjian and Ji Tianqing to catch up for a while, Xiao Han saw that it was about time and said, "Tianqing, we should go. This little brother and the others are injured and need to find a place to heal as soon as possible. We shouldn't waste their time." Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Okay." Shi Zhongjian was very excited. Seeing that Ji Tianqing was about to leave, he said with some reluctance, "Young Master Ji, are you leaving now?" Ji Tianqing slightly nodded and said with a calm voice, "I have important matters to attend to, so I have to go first. Lion, if fate wills it, we will meet again." Shi Zhongjian suppressed his reluctance and nodded with a forced smile. "Okay, then you go about your business. I also have to leave and find a place to heal." "Big brother Tianqing, if you have the chance, you must visit the Divine Hidden Sect as a guest." "Of course." Ji Tianqing slightly nodded and waved his hand to bid him farewell. After that, Shi Zhongjian and Jin Gu flew onto the Azure Dragon's back and quickly left this area, flying into the distance. After the Azure Dragon's figure disappeared into the horizon, Ji Tianqing said to Xiao Han, "Please wait for me for a moment, I will go and pack up some things." As he spoke, he landed on the ruined mound and searched for the corpses of the cloud spot beasts with sharp eyes. A moment later he found the soul crystal fragments of 2 cloud spot beasts in the ruins of the mound and in the nearby quagmire. He put away the soul crystal fragments and sent them into the broken sword for burial of heaven to devour and refine. Then he turned around and was about to leave. At this time, a black flying boat suddenly emerged from the quagmire not far away and flew over as fast as lightning. Whoosh! The black flying boat stopped next to Ji Tianqing, and a young man and woman with outstanding looks and extraordinary temperaments flew out from it. The young girl wore a light yellow dress. She had a delicate and cute face and a pair of big expressive eyes. Her entire body exuded a strange aura. She was a little hesitant and nervous. Like a young girl who saw her idol, she flew excitedly and shyly towards Ji Tianqing. She looked like she wanted to say something but hesitated. "Young master, please wait." Chapter 1161. Ji Tianqing's expression and tone were extremely calm and indifferent, and he naturally possessed the dignified aura of a genius expert. Xiao Linger focused her gaze on his face and eyes, and she only saw his appearance clearly at this moment. Her delicate figure instantly shook as her pupils dilated slightly, and her eyes revealed dense joy and excitement. When she was in the distance, she only saw that Ji Tianqing's strength was formidable, his figure tall and handsome, and his entire body had an oppressive heroic aura that was like a sharp sword. Only when she was close did she notice that not only was Ji Tianqing tall and handsome, he was also extremely handsome with slanted brows and starry eyes, and his eyes were dazzling and vast like stars. No matter if it was Ji Tianqing's age, strength, bearing, or appearance, they completely matched the Prince Charming in Xiao Linger's heart. She stared blankly at Ji Tianqing and actually forgot to speak for a time, and she stared fixedly at him without blinking. Ji Tianqing's brows raised once more as he revealed a wisp of a puzzled expression. "Miss, what's the matter?" Only now did Xiao Linger return to her senses and notice that she'd lost her composure, and she instantly blushed before lowering her head shyly and timidly. "Young Master Tianqing, I'm Linger. I have a presumptuous request, and I wonder if I can obtain your agreement?" Ji Tianqing nodded lightly and said with an indifferent expression, "Please speak, Miss Linger. As for whether I agree or not, we'll discuss it later." Xiao Linger was even more delighted in her heart when she saw that he didn't refuse right away, and she hurriedly explained. "Young Master Tianqing, the matter is like this. My clan brother and I have to complete an extremely important matter, and we have no choice but to obtain the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-striped beast. Unfortunately, our strengths are weak, and we've carefully planned for a long time before hiding nearby this mound and secretly observing for 2 days, yet we were unable to find an opportunity to make a move." Before she could finish speaking, Ji Tianqing had guessed her meaning, and he stretched out his hand to point at the cloud-striped beast's corpse as he said, "I'm not interested in the cloud-striped beast's corpse. If Miss Linger wants it, then please dig it up yourself." Seeing him agree to this matter, Xiao Linger's beautiful face revealed a smile that was like a flower, and she bowed with a heart full of excitement. "Thank you, young Master Tianqing. You've helped me greatly. Thank you so much." Ji Tianqing only nodded at her and didn't say anything. He turned around and flew into the sky, following Xiao Han into the distance. Xiao Linger wasn't in a hurry to dig out the tailbone and eyeballs of the cloud-streaked beast. She stood in the sky as she stared fixedly at Ji Tianqing's figure that vanished into the horizon, and she was still unwilling to withdraw her gaze. Xiao Chen stood beside her and said with a complicated tone, "Little sister Ling, he has already left. What are you still looking at? Let's quickly dig out the tail, bone and eyeball of the cloud spot beast. If we're late and other demonic beasts come over, we won't have a chance." Only now did Xiao Linger return to her senses. She withdrew her gaze with some reluctance, and then she took out her sword to rummage through the cloud-streak beast's corpse. As she dug out the tailbone and eyeballs of the cloud-streak beast, she still had a pensive look on her face, seemingly distracted. Xiao Chen understood her character the best. He couldn't help but tease her. "Little sister Ling, looking at your distracted appearance, you couldn't have fallen for that young master, right?" Xiao Linger's face turned red and a trace of embarrassment flashed in her eyes. However, she did not shrink back. She glared at Xiao Qian angrily and said unhappily, "So what if I did?" Young Master Tianxing is not only strong, but his appearance and temperament are also first-rate. His character is as gentle as jade. He is definitely one of the most elegant young masters in the world. He is a good match that countless girls yearn for even in their dreams. Even if I don't like a peerless genius like him, could it be that I like someone like you? Xiao Chen's face immediately turned red, but he was speechless. He glanced at Xiao Linger and could only mutter softly, "Little sister Linger, I advise you not to overthink it. No matter how perfect that young master is, he is just a passerby. He has already gone far away. It is hard to say whether you will be able to see him again in this lifetime." Xiao Linger was immediately unhappy. She glared at him angrily and pretended to be fierce as she said, "Nonsense. If we are fated, we will definitely be able to meet again. I saw the direction that the two of them left in earlier. They were heading for our Xiao clan. Maybe they are going to the Xiao clan." Haha. Xiao Qian curled his lips and said with a smile, "Aside from the Xiao clan's disciples, who else can enter the Xiao clan? Do you think that young master looks like a Xiao clan's disciple?" "You." Xiao Linger was almost choked to death by him. She angrily grabbed a bone and threw it at him. "Are you the only one who talks too much? Let's get to work." Seeing that she was quite angry, Xiao Qian immediately let out a hearty laugh. Soon the two of them dug out the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beast. After keeping the spoils of war, the two of them finally heaved a sigh of relief. They quickly entered the black flying ship and left at lightning speed. On the way back to the Xiao clan, the two of them were still discussing with anticipation in the flying ship. "Phew. We are finally done. We have to go back quickly and bring the materials to Third Grandpa so that he can help us refine the artifact." "Linger, as long as we get the artifact, we have an 80% chance of passing the test and getting the top 2. Xiao Linger nodded and said with righteous indignation, "Humph. It's all Xiao Shui and Xiao Chong's fault. They are too sinister. They have been planning the Holy Fire Festival since last year. If they did not ask Third Grandpa to refine the artifact, why would we need to take the risk to search for the materials and trouble Third Grandpa to refine the artifact for us?" Xiao Qian nodded in agreement and said, "That's right. Those fellows are guilty and know that they are not our match. So they came up with such a plan. If everyone does not use the artifact and participates in the test with their own strength, I will definitely defeat all of them." Xiao Linger thought for a while and revealed a worried expression. She said, "Xiao Qian, I heard from my father that Third Grandpa's health is not very good. Many years ago he suffered from an internal injury that will never heal. Over the past year, Third Grandpa has refined over 10 artifacts for our clan. His injury has already relapsed and his situation is very bad. I am really worried that after we find the materials, Third Grandpa will not be able to refine the artifact for us. However, I am more worried about Third Grandpa's injury." Xiao Qian was silent for a moment before he sighed with a complicated tone. "I hope Third Grandpa is fine. Otherwise, our wish of over 10 years will go down the drain." Unknowingly, a night passed. On the morning of the second day, the black flying ship flew continuously for 80,000 miles and finally arrived in the sky above a huge black quagmire. In the middle of this black quagmire with a circumference of 10,000 miles, there were 2 adjacent mounds. They were covered in lush shrubs and forests. These 2 black quagmires were the entrances to the Xiao clan's territory. They were called the Gemini Islands. When the black flying ship arrived in the sky above the Gemini Islands, Xiao Qian and Xiao Linger flew out. The two of them were about to land on the mound and take out their tokens to open the entrance. Suddenly they saw a dazzling white light in the sky between the Gemini Islands. It condensed into a wide door of light. Chapter 1162. When Xiao Qian and Xiao Linger saw the 2 figures, they were stunned. The 2 of them revealed an expression of disbelief. Xiao Qian even rubbed his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. After a long time, the door of white light disappeared. Only then did the 2 of them come back to their senses. The 2 of them looked at each other in dismay. Their expressions were very strange. Xiao Qian frowned and asked in a complicated tone, "Little sister Ling, did I see wrongly? Are they really those 2 people?" Yes. Xiao Linger nodded repeatedly. Her eyes flickered with excitement as she waved her little fists excitedly. "Great. I really hit the nail on the head. Young Master Tianqing really came to the Xiao clan. I didn't expect that we would be able to meet again so soon. Xiaochen didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at her. He teased, "Little sister Ling, is your mouth blessed? How could you be right about such things? However, I am thinking, who exactly are they? It is impossible for outsiders to enter the Xiao clan. Could they really be disciples of the Xiao clan?" Xiao Ling-er's imagination ran wild. She suddenly thought of something and said, "Our Xiao clan has existed for more than 1,000 years. We have already spread our branches and leaves and developed very strong. Perhaps their elders were once disciples of the Xiao clan and left for the central province continent a few hundred years ago. Now that a few hundred years have passed, a peerless genius appeared among their juniors. Therefore they wanted to return to the Xiao clan to pay respects to the old ancestor." Xiaochen originally felt that it was very absurd. However, after thinking carefully, he nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, that is very possible. Little sister Ling, you are still the smart one. Don't be in a daze. Let's go back quickly and find out who they are." Xiao Ling grabbed his arm and impatiently flew to the Twin Islands to activate the formation door of light. The two of them took out their identity tokens and executed the Xiao clan's formation techniques. Soon they activated the barrier formation. After a while, a dazzling white light lit up in the middle of the Twin Islands and condensed into a wide door of light. The two of them quickly entered the door of light and disappeared with a whoosh. Qi Tianqing and Xiao Han flew side by side in the sky. They were not very fast. As they hurried, they admired the scenery around them. On the ground, there was a vast grassland that stretched as far as the eye could see. The grass was waist-high and there were many small trees with flowers and fruits in the grass. 100 miles ahead was a majestic mountain range that stretched for nearly 1,000 miles. It was like a gray dragon lying on the ground. The sky was blue and there were a few scattered white clouds floating in the sky. It was extremely tranquil. The heaven and earth spirit qi in the air was extremely dense, even condensing into patches of colorful clouds and thin mist, sprinkling down tiny drops of spirit liquid. While they were flying, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, "I really didn't expect that in the depths of the barren and desolate great swamp of the southern wasteland, there would be such an otherworldly paradise with abundant natural powers." It was no wonder that the Xiao clan was able to flourish and produce so many elites. The choice and decision of the Xiao clan's patriarch was indeed bold and wise. Only in this way can a clan continue for 1,000 years without declining, and instead become more and more prosperous. Xiao Han slightly nodded and said with a smile, "Young Master Ji is overpraising me. This grotto heaven in the great swamp of the southern wasteland is indeed a paradise. But compared to the many wonders of the central state, it's not worth mentioning. As for our Xiao clan's patriarch, he indeed has great wisdom and perseverance. I also deeply admire him for this. If the Xiao clan were to emerge and compete with the three great ancient clans, it might be possible for the Xiao clan to become the fourth great ancient clan. However, the Xiao clan's patriarch once said that everything in the world follows the heavenly Tao. When things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. If the Xiao clan were to participate in worldly affairs and fight for power, it's very likely that it would be destroyed in advance. That Duanmu Shi and the Murong clan are examples. They prospered for 1,000 years. Now one has perished and the other is declining. Thinking of this, the wisest choice for the Xiao clan to live in seclusion in the great swamp of the southern wasteland. Unknowingly, the two had already flown 100 miles and arrived in the sky above the majestic mountain range. Ji Tianqing looked down at the mountain range below. He saw countless houses and palaces built on the mountain peak, forming many huge manors. In each manor there were ancient-style palaces built. There were many guards and martial artists moving about. Behind the mountain range there was a vast grassland. In the middle of the grassland, there were a few clear lakes that were as calm as mirrors. The surface of the lakes sparkled. On the grassland around the lakes, there were all kinds of spirit beasts. There were white cranes, winged birds, flame rhinoceroses, golden-winged apes, and so on. It was obvious that the houses on the mountain peak that stretched for dozens of miles were where the Xiao clan lived. And the grassland behind the mountain range was where the Xiao clan reared their spirit beasts. Ji Tianqing roughly estimated that the manors on the mountain peak could house at least 5,000 to 6,000 people. It was obvious that the Xiao clan was indeed a prosperous ancient clan. They had a very prosperous population. Young Master Ji, we have arrived. Xiao Han stopped flying and landed on a huge manor on the mountain peak. That is Tingfeng Garden. It's also where my third uncle lives. In the past 100 years I have only returned a few times. But every time I stayed in third uncle's Tingfeng Garden. As they spoke, the two landed at the entrance of Tingfeng Garden. At the wide and solemn entrance, there were 6 guards in armor standing guard. They looked solemn and serious. After seeing Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han, one of the guards hurriedly came forward to greet them. He bowed respectfully and asked, "Elder, may I know which branch you are from? Who are you looking for in Tingfeng Garden?" Xiao Han took out an identity token and said solemnly, "I am from the 3rd branch, Xiao Han. I am here to visit the 3rd elder." Xiao Han. The guard was stunned for a moment. Then he revealed a look of admiration and quickly bowed. "You are young Master Han from our 3rd branch? The divine general who guards the Eastern Sea?" The guards were all excited and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Obviously they had heard of Xiao Han's reputation but had never seen him in person. Xiao Han nodded slightly and put away the token. He stepped through the entrance and entered Tingfeng Garden. As he walked into the manor, he did not forget to explain to Ji Tianxing, "The people who live here are all descendants of the Xiao clan. Even if they are strangers, they are still related by blood. Therefore, when people get to know each other, they will call themselves the descendants of so and so to distinguish them. There are many people in the Xiao clan. Other than the ancestor and grand elder, the 9 elders are usually in charge of the clan's affairs. My father and the 3rd elder are cousins. The 3rd elder is my uncle. Therefore I am a descendant of the 3rd branch. Ever since my parents passed away, 3rd uncle has been taking care of me and teaching me cultivation. 3rd uncle is best at refining weapons. He is in charge of the clan's spiritual treasure hall. He is in charge of refining treasures for the clan. Unfortunately, 3rd uncle's health has always been poor. He has hidden injuries that are difficult to heal. I have been worried but have not had the time to visit him. I am ashamed to say that." Chapter 1163. After a while, Ji Tianxing followed Xiao Han into the main hall of Tingfeng Garden. The guard went to report the news, and the two of them sat down in the main hall to drink tea and wait patiently. Not long after, the guard returned with a white-haired old man in a white robe. The old man was 6 feet tall and his body was a little stooped. He held a walking stick in his hand and his footsteps were a little unsteady. His face was withered and aged, and he looked like he had one foot in the grave and was on the verge of death. His weathered face was full of wrinkles and his sunken eyes were a little dim. The aura of his magic power was also faintly discernible and very dim. Ji Tianxing could see that this old man was originally a transcendent expert in the spirit refinement realm. However, the old man was already old, and his body was plagued with internal injuries and hidden illnesses. His vitality was withered and his soul power was weak. He did not have much time left. Seeing the old man in this state, Xiao Han immediately stood up with an expression of disbelief, and called out in a worried tone, "Third uncle, your injuries, did they relapse?" As he spoke, he quickly went up and helped the white-haired old man to the main seat. The white-haired old man was the 3rd elder. After he slowly sat down, his withered face squeezed out a smile and he looked kindly at Xiao Han. He nodded and said, "Xiao Han, you're finally back. I haven't seen you for more than 20 years and you haven't changed at all." Seeing that you're getting better and better, this old man is relieved. Cough, cough, cough. As he spoke, the 3rd elder coughed violently. He used a handkerchief to cover his mouth, and a dark red blood stain could be seen on the white handkerchief. It was a shocking sight. Xiao Han became more and more worried and hurriedly asked, "Third uncle, you've been recuperating in the clan all this time. Why did your injuries relapse and worsen? Did something happen?" The 3rd elder forced out a kind smile and waved his hand. "Nothing happened, it's just that I'm old and weak and I can't take it anymore." Before he could finish, the guard beside him couldn't help but mutter, "Third elder's body isn't good to begin with, and when the clan needs a set of 6 directions magic treasure, 3rd elder can only work hard to refine it, and because of this his vitality is greatly damaged." Yet those young masters and young ladies keep begging Third Elder to refine magic treasures for them so that they can get a good ranking in the Holy Fire Festival examination. This guard was the captain of the Tingfeng Gardens Guards and a trusted aide of the Third Elder. Of course he knew the real reason. He was very clear about the Third Elder's injuries and situation. He was worried and angry, so he couldn't help but say it. The moment Xiaohan heard, he immediately frowned and said with a face full of anger, "This bunch of little brats are seriously too outrageous." In order to fight for a chance to leave the Xiao clan, he actually came up with such a method. No wonder Third Uncle's injuries worsened. What are the names of those brats? I'll go and settle the score with their elders. The guard quickly replied, "There's young Master Xiao Chong from the 2nd branch and young Miss Xiao Shui from the 5th branch." Without waiting for him to finish, the Third Elder raised his hand and interrupted him. "Shut up. The younger generation of disciples are working hard to cultivate. Isn't it to see the outside world? These little brats are all very outstanding. How can I bear to reject them? Xiaohan, don't pursue this matter anymore. Let them be." "Third Uncle. But your body." Xiaohan was still angry and refused to give up. The Third Elder lightly shook his head and said, "Let's not talk about this matter anymore. Xiaohan, you haven't introduced this person beside you to me." As he spoke, he turned his head to look at Ji Tianxing and a kind smile appeared on his old face. Xiaohan quickly introduced, "Third Uncle, this is the young Master Ji that I mentioned in the letter. The Emperor's most valued Tianjin region lord and the most outstanding prince in the monarch's mansion." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and bowed to the Third Elder. He said, "Junior Ji Tianxing greets Third Elder." The Third Elder's eyes instantly lit up. He nodded happily and said, "Good. As expected of the number 1 genius of the human race. What a heroic and extraordinary genius." Ji Tianxing smiled kindly and said modestly, "Third Elder is too kind." The Third Elder leaned on his walking stick and said earnestly to Xiaohan, "Xiaohan, although everyone knows young Master Ji's identity, you can't mention it to anyone else in the Xiao clan. Regarding the matter of meeting the old ancestor, the other clan elders were against it. I tried my best to get everyone's agreement and allowed you to meet the old ancestor." Xiaohan nodded to show that he understood. He said, "Thank you, Third Uncle. We've troubled you." The Third Elder waved his hand and said, "However, the old ancestor will only meet you after the Holy Fire Festival. For the next few days, you can stay in the Tingfeng Garden and have a good rest." After that, the Third Elder ordered the guard beside him, "Bring them to the guest room." Xiaohan could only bow and take his leave. He brought Ji Tianxing out of the hall and followed the guard to the guest room in the side courtyard. After Xiaohan and Ji Tianxing left, the Third Elder couldn't help but cough a few times. His dry face became even more sallow. At this moment, another guard rushed to the entrance of the hall and reported respectfully, "Third Elder, young Master Qin and young Miss Ling have returned. They are outside the hall and are asking to see you." When the Third Elder heard this, he quickly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said calmly, "Let them in." That guard turned and left. Soon he brought a young man and a young woman into the hall. This young man and woman were Xiao Qin and Xiao Ling. After the two entered the hall, they stood in front of the Third Elder and bowed obediently with a smile on their faces. "Qin greets Third Elder. Ling greets Third Grandpa." The Third Elder looked at the two of them kindly and nodded slightly. He said with a gratified tone, "The two of you are finally back. Fortunately you are safe and sound. Did you find the cloud-spotted beast?" Hearing this, Xiao Ling expression changed. She asked subconsciously, "Third Grandpa, how did you know that we went to find the cloud-spotted beast?" The Third Elder stroked his white beard and said with a smile, "Do you think I don't know what you are thinking? Those little fellows came to me to refine magic treasures. How could you sit still? 2 days ago I knew that the two of you went out, so I asked the guard to ask around. Naturally I found out everything. The cloud-spotted beast is a powerful demonic beast with the strength of a soul refinement realm cultivator. The two of you were able to return safely. Could it be that you didn't even find the cloud-spotted beast?" Xiao Qin said with excitement and anticipation, "Third Elder, we have already." Xiao Ling glared at him when he was halfway through his words. Then she pretended to be disappointed and nodded. She said to the Third Elder, "Third Grandpa, you guessed right again. The cloud-spotted beast is so powerful. How could we find it so easily? Chapter 1164. Xiao Ling-er's words did not arouse the third elder's suspicion. In his opinion, this was a reasonable thing. He nodded slightly and said with a smile, "With your strength, it is indeed impossible to kill the cloud spot beast and obtain the refining materials. So you two are too sensible. You are not like the little fellows in the other branches, who are begging their elders to help them gather materials. Unfortunately, without the corresponding materials, I cannot refine treasures for you. The two of you will have to be extra careful during the Holy Fire Festival." Xiao Qian was startled and could not help but reveal the truth. However, Xiao Ling-er glared at him again and quickly changed the topic. She asked the third elder, "Third Grandpa Ling-er came to visit you today to ask about something. When we came back earlier, we saw two unfamiliar men, one old and one young, enter our Xiao clan. The middle-aged man was wearing a purple robe and the young man was wearing a white robe. They were very handsome. Third Grandpa, who are they? Why have Ling-er never seen them before?" The third elder's old face immediately revealed a gratified and proud expression. He nodded and said, "The two people you are talking about, I just met them. They are now living in Tingfeng Garden. The man in the purple robe is your uncle, your father's cousin. You should have heard of his name. He is Xiao Han, the pride of our third branch and the entire Xiao clan." Xiao Han. Xiao Qian's eyes widened, revealing a gaze full of worship and excitement. He said with a trembling voice, "The divine general of the eastern forest, Uncle Xiao Han, who guards the eastern sea border. He actually came back. That's great. I have heard of his legends since I was young and have always admired him. I hope that when I grow up I can bring glory to my ancestors and guard the continent." Xiao Ling-er was also very excited and pleasantly surprised. She could not help but ask, "Oh my God. He is actually Uncle Xiao Han. I did not expect to see the divine general of the eastern forest." "That's right, Third Grandpa. Where is the young man beside Uncle Xiao Han? Who is he?" The third elder smiled and nodded. "That is Xiao Han's nephew, Tianxing. He is a genius 10 times more outstanding than Xiao Han." "It's really him." Xiao Ling-er was so excited that her eyes sparkled. She couldn't help but clench her little fists and think to herself with joy, "That's great. He's in Tingfeng Garden and I'll be able to see him soon. Xiao Tianxing, I will definitely find you and get to know you again." The third elder saw their reactions and guessed their thoughts. He reminded them in a serious tone, "Xiao Han is returning to the Xiao clan this time to bring the top 2 disciples with him. The disciples who obtain the top 2 positions would serve under Xiao Han and receive his promotion and care. The two of you have to work harder and strive to be in the top 2 to gain Xiao Han's favor." However, they had just returned and needed a good rest. "If you want to see him, you'll have to wait until tomorrow." Xiao Ling-er hurriedly nodded. "Yes, Third Grandpa, don't worry. We'll surely not be rash and abrupt." Xiao Qian suppressed the excitement in his heart and nodded repeatedly. After that, the two of them bowed to the third elder and left the hall. After walking out of Tingfeng Garden, the two of them chatted as they walked. Xiao Qian couldn't help but ask, "Sister Ling-er, why didn't you let me tell the third elder the truth just now?" Xiao Ling-er glared at him and said unhappily, "Are you stupid? Didn't you see that Third Grandpa's injuries have worsened and his complexion is even worse? Third Grandpa refined the 6 Harmonies magic treasure for the clan and also refined magic treasures for Xiao Shui and the rest. His vitality has been greatly damaged and his internal injuries have flared up. How can we cause trouble for Third Grandpa and let him refine magic treasures and worsen his injuries?" Xiao Qian frowned and said with a heart full of worry, "I also understand this logic. However, Xiao Shui and Xiao Chong both have magic treasures and we don't. When the time comes, we'll be at a disadvantage in the examination. If we can't obtain the top 2 positions, we'll lose the great opportunity to follow Uncle Xiao Han." Xiao Ling-er thought for a while and her quick-witted eyes turned. She immediately had an idea. "Xiao Qian, how about this? Tomorrow we'll go pay a visit to Uncle Xiao Han and sound him out. If there's a chance, we'll hint to Uncle Xiao Han and let him set the rules of the examination. We're not allowed to borrow external forces or use magic treasures." Xiao Qian's eyes immediately lit up and he nodded repeatedly, "Hey, this idea is not bad. This is very fair to everyone." Just as he finished speaking, a disdainful sneer came from the front. Only the weak have extravagant hopes for fairness. Suddenly hearing these words, Xiao Qian and Xiao Ling stopped in their tracks and raised their heads to look forward. They saw that on the bluestone road in front of them, there were 3 young men and women walking towards them. The young woman walking in the middle wore a blue dress and held a silver sword in her left hand. This woman was tall and had a cold temperament. However, her face was slightly ordinary and could only be considered average. She was the genius of the 5th branch, Xiaoxue. Following on her left and right were 2 handsome young men. The young man on the left wore a snow-white robe. His face was sickly pale and his eyes were gloomy and cold. He was the genius of the 2nd branch, Xiaocheng. He was also the one who sneered earlier. The young man on the right wore a fiery red robe. He was the genius of the 4th branch, Xiaoku. He was tall and sturdy with a dignified appearance. His entire body emitted a valiant and wild aura. These 3 young men and women, in addition to Xiao Qian and Xiao Ling, were the most outstanding geniuses of the Xiao clan's younger generation. Unfortunately, these 5 geniuses were divided into 2 factions. They were hostile and opposed to each other. They had to compete in everything. Xiao Chong's words made Xiao Qian and Xiao Ling furious. Their eyes turned cold. Xiao Qian shouted in a deep voice, "Xiao Chong, you dare to be arrogant in front of me with your little strength?" Xiao Chong leisurely stroked his collar. The corner of his mouth curled into a sinister sneer. He nodded and said, "That's right. I alone am enough to crush you. You're too arrogant. I must teach you a lesson today." Xiao Qian could not hold back his anger. He clenched his fist in anger and was about to attack. However, a light flashed in Xiao Chong's palm, and a crescent-shaped silver saber appeared. As Xiao Chong poured quintessence into the saber immediately expanded by 1,000 times. It turned into a huge saber that was 10 meters long and gave off a dazzling silver light. A strong wind swept up on the blue stone path. The berserk saber chi was pointed at Xiao Qian. "Xiao Qian, you can't even take 1 saber strike from me. Do you believe me?" Xiao Qian was immediately driven mad. However, due to the might of the silver saber, he did not dare to attack Xiao Chong. Xiao Ling cursed angrily, "Xiao Chong, you shameless, despicable person. Aren't you just relying on the might of your magic treasure?" Chapter 1165. Xiao Qian and Xiao Ling's true strength was definitely not weaker than Xiao Chong's. In fact, they were even slightly stronger. However, a soul-ranked enchanted treasure could increase Xiao Chong's combat prowess by 2 to 3 times, completely suppressing the 2 of them. This was what they were most dissatisfied with and angered them the most. Xiao Chong controlled the 10-meter-long silver breaking moon saber to hover above Xiao Qian's head, showing off his might. Xiao Chong revealed a cold smile and said proudly, "In our Xiao clan, only the old ancestor and the 3rd elder can refine soul-ranked enchanted treasures. In the entire Xiao clan, there are less than 50 soul-ranked enchanted treasures. However, the 3rd elder refined enchanted treasures for the 3 of us. What does this mean? It means that the 3 of us are outstanding enough to have soul-ranked enchanted treasures. As for the 2 of you, you can't even obtain the materials to refine enchanted treasures. You are even less qualified to get the 3rd elder to refine one for you." Xiao Qian could not stand Xiao Chong's proud appearance. He was so angry that he laughed. "Xiao Chong, can you be any more shameless? Didn't you get the materials to refine enchanted treasures with the help of your elders? With your strength and courage, you don't even have the courage to step into the forbidden land of the swamp." The red-robed Xiaoku immediately grinned coldly. "Ha! Our parents and elders were able to obtain the materials to refine enchanted treasures because they were strong enough. This is also our capital. Who asked your parents and elders to be trash? They can't even obtain soul-ranked enchanted treasures. How can you blame us for this?" After Xiaoku finished speaking, he exchanged glances with Xiao Chong and laughed proudly. Xiao Qian and Xiao Ling were extremely enraged. Their bodies shone with quintessence as they roared and attacked. "Xiaoku, you dare to insult my parents. You are seeking death. Xiao Chong, if you are still a man, put down the breaking moon saber and fight fairly." It looked like both sides were circulating their vast quintessence, about to execute their secret techniques to fight on the limestone path. Just at this moment, a dignified and angry shout came from the end of the path not far away. "Stop! As that voice rang out, a purple-robed middle-aged man walked out with a white-robed youth. The two walked side by side as if they were taking a stroll in the manor, enjoying the scenery and chatting. The middle-aged man was tall and straight with a dignified appearance. His expression was cold and solemn, and his eyes were surging with a frightening light. His entire body exuded a powerful aura of a superior. His eyes swept across the 5 young geniuses indifferently as he shouted in a deep voice, "As disciples of the same clan, how dare you fight against each other within the clan? What is this?" Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, Xiao Qian, and the others immediately stopped and turned to look at the purple-robed man. When Xiao Qian and Xiao Ling clearly saw the face of the purple-robed man, the anger that filled their hearts completely dispersed, and they revealed an expression that was filled with excitement and excitement. The two of them looked at the purple-robed man with shining eyes. They bowed respectfully and called him uncle. Without a doubt, the purple-robed man was Xiao Han. Xiao Qian stared at Xiao Han without blinking. His eyes were filled with worship and reverence. Xiao Ling gaze instead descended onto Ji Tianxing, who was beside Xiao Han, and she carefully sized him up. Although Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku and Xiao Shui did not recognize Xiao Han, they knew that he was an elder of the Xiao clan. The 3 of them stopped and withdrew their weapons and magic treasures. Xiao Chong glanced at Xiao Han and looked at Xiao Qian with contempt. He shouted in a low voice, "Xiao Qian, consider yourself lucky today. With an elder present, this young master will spare you this time. 3 days later, during the Holy Fire Festival's test, I will definitely defeat you in front of everyone and make you roll off the stage like a dog." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left with Xiao Ku and Xiao Shui swaggering away. From the beginning to the end, they only glanced at Xiao Han and Ji Tianxing. They did not put the 2 of them in their eyes. Xiao Qian and Xiao Ling were unable to restrain their anger. They were so angry that they gnashed their teeth. However, they could only suppress their anger in their hearts and could not vent it out. When Xiao Han saw that the matter had calmed down, he no longer cared about the youths. He brought Ji Tianxing along the bluestone path and strolled around the manor. As the 2 of them strolled, Xiao Han gave Ji Tianxing an apologetic smile. "Tianxing, I've made a fool of myself earlier." Ji Tianxing shook his head and chuckled. "It's nothing. It's normal for youths to be competitive. Moreover, the Xiao clan has many branches and the relationships between the younger generations are distant. It's inevitable that there will be some grudges and conflicts." Xiao Han nodded with some regret. "That's right. This is the trouble of a big clan. Back then, the young geniuses of my generation were also not convinced of each other's strength and secretly schemed against each other. However, the young geniuses of my generation were more shrewd and would not shed all pretense of cordiality in public like them. Perhaps the Xiao clan is getting worse with each generation and will gradually decline and wither away?" Ji Tianxing only smiled and did not say anything. The 2 of them walked half a circle around the manor. Just as they entered a garden, a guard quickly came over and reported to Xiao Han, "Lord Xiao Han, the great elder knows that you have returned and ordered me to send a message for you to meet him." Chapter 1166. Ji Tianxing's attitude had always been casual, neither too close nor too far. He had the aloofness of a peerless genius, but also the dignity of an expert. To Xiao Ling, this had a special attraction. She couldn't help but want to get closer to Ji Tianxing and understand him better. Especially when Ji Tianxing looked at her. His eyes were as clear as water without any surprise or lust. This made her admire him even more, but also a little disappointed. After all, she was the publicly acknowledged #1 beauty in the Xiao clan, the most outstanding among the young women. Many young men in the Xiao clan admired her very much. Some were secretly in love with her and some were openly pursuing and pestering her. Ji Tianxing saw that Xiao Ling was a little dazed, as if she was thinking about something. He asked, "Why did you follow me here?" Xiao Ling came back to her senses and answered subconsciously, "Of course, I want to thank you in person." Before she could finish, Ji Tianxing raised his hand and interrupted her. He asked again, "Other than that?" Xiao Ling was stunned for a moment, and her heartbeat inexplicably accelerated. She secretly looked at Ji Tianxing and asked tentatively, "Big brother Tianxing, can I sit down and chat with you?" Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and nodded. "Feel free." Xiao Ling'er was a little excited and she sat down beside him with a face full of smiles. Ji Tianqing's easygoing and approachable made her feel relaxed and no longer nervous. She turned her head to look at Ji Tianqing and asked, "Big brother Tianqing, I heard that you are Uncle Xiao Han's nephew, but I have never seen you before. You didn't grow up in the Xiao clan, right?" "Of course not." Xiao Ling'er's eyes flickered with quick-wittedness. She asked, "Then can you tell me about the outside world? What's it like?" "The outside world." Ji Tianqing paused for a moment and smiled. "It's very exciting and very complicated." After saying that, he looked at Xiao Ling. "You seem to yearn for the outside world?" "Of course." Xiao Ling'er nodded without hesitation and said, "It is not just me. Most of the Xiao clan disciples are not willing to stay here. They all want to go out and adventure. Men wanted to roam the world and establish their careers. They wanted to become a great hero like Uncle Xiao Han, a peerless expert. As for me, I just want to see the scenery outside, make more friends and find the perfect lover in my heart." Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Miss Ling'er, it's not good for you to be so straightforward, right? Girls should be more reserved." Xiao Ling'er was also slightly embarrassed as she asked with a slightly red face, "Big brother Tianqing, do you think that I'm a little bold and unrestrained?" "That's not it." Ji Tianqing shook his head and said calmly, "You're just a simple and straightforward person." Xiao Ling'er nodded in agreement and said, "Third grandpa often says this as well. He even says that if I go outside I'll surely suffer a loss. Unfortunately, I may not have the chance to see the outside world. My wish of more than 10 years is about to be shattered." Her tone was somewhat gloomy and sad. Her tone was somewhat helpless and angry. Ji Tianqing tilted his head and looked at her. "What's wrong? Are you worried that you won't be able to pass the exam and get into the top 2? So you also know about the Holy Fire Festival's exam?" Xiao Ling'er blinked her big eyes and said with a somewhat resentful tone, "Big brother Tianqing, actually if everyone takes the exam fairly, I still have the confidence to get into the top 2. After all, my talent and strength can be ranked in the top 3 among the younger generation. However, Xiao Chong and Xiao Shui, those 3 fellows just now, they actually used magical artifacts to cheat." Speaking up to here, her tone was full of helplessness as she muttered, "You also know that a low-grade soul-level magical artifact is several times stronger than a magical artifact. Xiao Qin and I are only slightly stronger than Xiao Chong and the others. How could we possibly block the power of a magical artifact?" Ji Tianqing immediately understood her worry and anger. He asked despite knowing the answer, "Didn't you guys get the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beast? Why didn't you let Third Elder refine a magical artifact for you?" Xiao Ling'er shook her head and said with a heart full of worry, "Third grandfather's internal injuries have relapsed. His condition is very bad. He is already in so much pain. How could we cause him more trouble?" Ji Tianqing asked back, "So, you would rather accept the result of failing the exam than aggravate Third Elder's injuries?" Xiao Ling'er nodded and said, "Xiao Chong and Xiao Shui aren't from the third branch. Of course they wouldn't care about third grandfather's condition. However, we can't do that." Hearing her say this, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but look at her again. A hint of admiration flashed through his eyes. Although this matter had nothing to do with him, the kindness and care of human nature was always worthy of praise and admiration. At this moment, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from the cobblestone path beside the lake. 2 handsome young men walked out side by side. As they walked, they whispered to each other. One of them was wearing a white robe and the other was wearing a red robe. They were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku. When Ji Tianqing raised his head and looked at them, they also stopped and saw Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling'er in the pavilion. Xiao Chong was startled. His pale face immediately revealed a disdainful sneer. He said with a disdainful tone, "Oh my, everyone thought that the number 1 beauty Xiao Ling'er was pure as ice and pure as jade. I didn't expect that Xiao Ling'er also had feelings for love." She met her lover in broad daylight and hid here to whisper sweet nothings. Xiao Chong's eyes were very sinister and his tone was also very strange. It was unbearable. Xiao Ke glanced at Ji Tianqing and curled his lips. "Xiao Ling'er, there are so many young talents in the Xiao clan's main branch. For example, Xiao Chong and I, but you didn't choose any of them. In the end you chose a branch disciple from outside. Aren't you inserting a flower into cow dung? After saying that, he even cast a contemptuous look at Ji Tianxing and shouted coldly, "Brat, this is the Shao clan. It's already an honor for you, a branch disciple, to be able to return here. You better behave yourself and don't have any improper thoughts. Otherwise I'll throw you out." How could Xiao Ling tolerate the two of them slandering her like this? She stood up and scolded with a frosty face, "Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, you two bastards, don't slander me and sully my innocence." Xiao Chong curled his lips and said with a strange tone, "Little sister Ling, don't exaggerate. I didn't even touch the corner of your clothes. How can I sully your innocence? Could it be that I use my eyes?" "Xiao Chong, you're courting death." Xiao Ling was so furious that she almost went berserk. Dazzling true essence surged all over her body, and she was about to make a move immediately. As a pure girl, how could she be humiliated and molested in front of her like this? Chapter 1167. A bright light flashed in Xiao Ling's palm and a dark golden sword appeared. She held the scabbard in her left hand and the sword hilt in her right hand. She was about to draw the sword in a fit of anger. At this moment, a warm and powerful palm pressed on the sword hilt and pushed the sword back into the scabbard. Xiao Ling turned her head and saw Ji Tianxing looking at her calmly. His eyes were as calm as water. She didn't know why, but when she saw Ji Tianxing's deep eyes, the anger and murderous intent in her heart instantly dissipated and she calmed down. Ji Tianxing was still sitting on the stone bench in the pavilion. He glanced at Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku indifferently and asked Xiao Ling, if I didn't guess wrongly, these two clowns pursued you before, but you rejected them, right?" Xiao Ling was startled for a moment. She didn't understand what he meant, so she answered truthfully, "That's right. I would rather die than agree to such disgusting and despicable people like them." Ji Tianxing revealed an expression of deep understanding. He nodded and said, "That's indeed the case. Such small flies don't even have the qualifications to carry your shoes." Xiao Ling saw his serious face and couldn't help but blink her big clear eyes. Her heartbeat suddenly sped up, and she felt an inexplicable happiness and joy. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were so angry that their noses were crooked. They were so humiliated that their faces and ears turned red. Both of them flew into a rage. They glared fiercely at Ji Tianxing and scolded, "Brat, who are you? How dare you insult this young master? Wild brat from the outside, how dare you be so presumptuous in our Shao clan? You're dead meat." No matter how the two of them scolded, Ji Tianxing's expression remained calm. His eyes were indifferent, as if he was looking at two ants. After the two of them scolded for a while and stopped to catch their breath, he said in a pitiful tone, "Two ant-like trash. You've become so deranged after being poked in your sore spot. How sad." Xiao Chong's face turned red with anger. He pointed at Ji Tianxing and shouted, "Brat, don't talk nonsense with this young master. If you have the guts, come to the arena with this young master. Let's fight in front of everyone. You're pissing me off. I'm going to break all 5 of your legs and make sure you don't have any descendants." Xiao Ku also hooked his finger at him and said provocatively, "Kid, if you're still a man, then fight with me." Xiao Ling couldn't bear to see the two of them being so arrogant. She couldn't bear to see the two of them profaning the Prince Charming in her heart. Instantly, killing intent surged violently from her entire body. Ji Tianxing was still as calm as ever, without the slightest hint of anger. Xiao Ling saw his reaction and asked doubtfully, "Big brother Tianxing, those two bastards provoked you like this. Could it be that you're not angry?" Ji Tianxing glanced at Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku with disdain. He said indifferently, "There are too many people who want to challenge me. If there aren't 100,000, there are at least 80,000. If I paid attention to every single one of them, wouldn't I be unable to do anything? Moreover, these two reptiles are not qualified for me to make a move. It's their honor for me to look at them." Ji Tianxing's expression was very serious. His tone was very certain and confident. It was as if he was stating a fact, a truth. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They were so angry that they almost went berserk. Xiao Ling felt that it made sense. She nodded in agreement and said, "I see. Looks like Big Brother Tianxing usually encounters this kind of trouble, right?" "Yes." Ji Tianxing nodded calmly and said, "After all, The entire continent knows of my reputation and deeds. Who knows how many young geniuses want to challenge me and make a name for themselves in one battle. Xiao Ling'er's eyes were filled with longing. She clenched her pink little fists excitedly. She couldn't imagine how awe-inspiring it would be for someone as famous as Ji Tianxing to be the center of attention wherever he went. This also made her look forward to the outside world even more. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were so angry that they laughed. Their faces were distorted. Ah, I've lived for so long, but this is the first time I've seen such a shameless person. Kid, your ability to boast and be shameless is indeed the best in the world. It's really unprecedented and will never be surpassed. Xiao Ling'er, so this is the person you've chosen. I'm dying of laughter. The two of you will definitely become the shame of the Xiao clan. Just as the two of them were cursing angrily, a purple figure walked over from the small path. He arrived at the lakeside with one step. The newcomer was dressed in a purple robe. His figure was tall and straight, and his entire body emitted the aura of a superior, powerful and noble. He was Xiao Han. Of course, when he rushed over, he just happened to hear Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku's angry curses. Shut up. Xiao Han stopped and stared at the two of them coldly. He shouted in a dignified tone. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku immediately turned around and looked at Xiao Han with unfriendly eyes. Because the other party was an elder and had decent strength, the two of them didn't say anything. However, the sneer and ridicule in their eyes couldn't be concealed. Xiao Han didn't say anything unnecessary. He pointed at Ji Tianxing in the pavilion and shouted angrily at the two of them, "Apologize to Tianxing." What? The two of them were stunned. They sneered and questioned Xiao Han with disdain. Who are you? We're not from the third branch. Who are you to tell us what to do? Why should we apologize to him? That kid insulted us. We're waiting for him to apologize to us. Xiao Han furrowed his brows as a cold light flashed in his eyes. In the next instant he raised his right hand and his sleeves fluttered as he slapped out. Flap. The invisible slap landed on Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku's cheeks from 10 steps away. It made a crisp sound. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were both at Sky Origin Stage Level 5. However, they couldn't see how Xiao Han attacked. The left side of their faces swelled up like a pig's head. It was red and filled with blood. The two of them were stunned. They stared at Xiao Han in disbelief and shouted angrily, "How dare you hit me? You're from the third branch. How dare you punish us? I'll go to the law hall and ask for an explanation. My father is Xiao Zhan from the second branch. How dare you hit me? My father will never forgive you." The two of them didn't dare to attack Xiao Han. They covered their swollen cheeks and stared at Xiao Han fiercely. Xiao Han didn't say anything. He raised his right hand again and slapped them. Flap. This time the two of them were prepared. They tried their best to back off, but they were still slapped on the right side of their faces. The right side of their faces swelled up like a pig's head. It was covered with dark red blood. The two of them were dizzy from the slap. They staggered and fell to the ground. They looked extremely embarrassed. The two of them were scared. They hurriedly got up from the ground and helped each other to leave the lake. Before they ran out of the garden, the two of them didn't forget to threaten Xiao Han. Just you wait. We'll remember this. The law elder will come to you soon. Just you wait. Xiao Han coldly shouted, "Go and find the law elder. Also, tell Xiao Zhan to come find me and ask for punishment." You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.